Bases dropped on a new round of SDH AM. John, here you there. Thanks for hanging out with me, and thanks for putting up with my voice. You're basically the first folks that I've talked to today. And so it's going to take a little bit for the voice to warm up, and we'll navigate through it. And as always, the hair has a mind of its own. So it's Tuesday, and it's whatever is on your mind. Here's the rundown for this morning. In about 10 minutes, Kacey D will find out where she be, and we'll find out what's on her mind as we take a peek at MLS, NWSL, and college soccer in 2025, what stuck out with her. This is where Kacey D gets to open up her senior yearbook, and we'll look at the senior class of 25, and then we'll find out what's on her mind, and maybe a bit of a preview into 26. We might need to get into the NWSL high impact player discussion that we had yesterday with Bart. Find out what Kacey thinks about that and the growth of the NWSL in general. There are now some players that are coming back into the country, and NWSL teams are not afraid to pay the transfer fees that are attached to it. So we'll get into that coming up with Kacey D at 9:15-ish, and we'll find out if Owen got his pony or his llama that he asked for Christmas. 10 o'clock, it is a conversation with Kaylor Hodges from at the USL show, and it's at Kaylor Hodges. And we go over what's going on. And it's been a busy month in USL Championship and USL League One on a bunch of different fronts. We kind of go over 25 a little bit. There's been some activity in 26, specifically with what happened yesterday in Lexington and Louisville, where Bluegrass Derby ends up transferring Philip Goodrum from one to the other. We go over that. We go over all the news in USL Championship League One, what to look at coming into 26 with all the new teams. And there's a franchise explosion in USL League One. It's crazy that they're going to have 18 franchises in USL League One next year. You're going to have the regional rivalries continue to develop. Boise in the Northwest, Sarasota in the South and the Southeast that's added to it. And we get into that with Kaylor in hour number 2. We've also got to get into the activity of today. It is Arsenal and it is Arsenal and Aston Villa in the Prem. We've got AFCON to get into. We'll get you into that. Remember, that's matches that are simultaneous. This is match day 3 in the group stage. We'll go over what happened yesterday with yet another moment of really, I would say, brilliance. And it's not, anticipated that it would end up being something other than that. It's like it's either a bicycle kick or nothing for El Kaabi from Morocco. We'll play that for you, get you set up for AFCON for today. And 2 more groups will be decided, and we'll find out what's going on there in AFCON after Kaylor Hodges' last half hour of the show. Or we might even get into it after Kacey D, and we'll find out maybe at the end of hour number 1. We'll get you ready for after Kacey D. We'll probably do Premier League. We'll get into that because they're in festive fixtures. So we'll go through all of that, what to watch, where to watch it, how to watch it. And then we'll get into Kaylor at 10 o'clock and then AFCON and all the other stuff, your AM news. Looks like there's some transfer news that's attached. And it is part of all of that dynamic that we'll get into. We also have a John Texter update for those of you that missed it yesterday, last night on SOT. And we can move the story along a little bit. So we caught up with our sources after last night. And we've got a bit of an update where Texter is concerned once again. Some aspects, he's going to kick the can down the road, see Atlanta United, because he can do that legally under the appeals process. And then other things where you're massively in debt right now, it looks like you're trying to navigate through some things. We do have an update on that. We caught up with some of our sources, and we'll let you know what they have to say about the John Texter situation with Botafogo, where John Texter wants to buy Botafogo away from Eagle and hang on to it himself. Bought it for 72 in about 3 years ago, 72 million US. And we'll go over all of that later in the show, 10:30-ish and beyond. It's the last half hour. We'll get into John Texter and AFCON. So I think we just came up with a rundown. KCD and the Premier League and festive fixtures looks like that's our number one. Kaylor Hodges, 10 to 10:30. And then after that, it's John Texter, AFCON, getting you ready for the day and whatever else is on your mind. And did you get what you wanted for Christmas? Did you, for the holidays, have you received what you wanted? Did you go under your tree or bush or what have you, and did you get what you were hunting for? Did the individual that comes by the house and takes your milk and cookies or your Nutter Butters or whatever, did they leave what you were asking for? That's today's question. Brought to us by our friends at the Morning Espresso. That's our lead-in here at SDH, and that's Morning Espresso is our way of kind of kicking off things here on the network, and so it's a way for Jason to kind of set the table for us every single day, and that's brought to us by our friends at Oglethorpe University. We couldn't do a lot of what we do on the college side of things if it wasn't for the assistants and really across the board, if it wasn't for our friends at Oglethorpe. Oglethorpe brings you Morning Espresso as our way to kind of set the table for us, and then we set the table for the rest of the day and then everything that proceeds its way through. So that, I guess, that was kind of opening kickoff-y. And so opening kickoff brought to us by our friends at the Morning Espresso, our lead-in. And you can also subscribe to that. And I think you go to soccerdownhere.net and you can subscribe. If you haven't subscribed to Morning Espresso yet, you should. And then you can get your day kicked off there. It comes in newsletter form and audio and video and those kinds of things. And so Morning Espresso exists in a bunch of different ways. You can read, you can listen, you can watch. That gets the day started with us. About 15 minutes worth of content, 15 minutes or less. Get your day started. And then we are off and running here in the mornings. And then from there, it's Katie bar the door with all the other stuff that we got going on. And we can't thank you guys for hanging out with us here in season number 8 of what we are doing here at SDH. So that is the rundown of the show this morning. And once again, I'm going to put my hand in the air. Did you get what you were hunting for? I will say this. The boss obviously, she obviously outdid herself, and off frame there's still some stuff. We have a to do tonight here at the Casa, and so there's still some stuff from December holidays that is off camera as we welcome in guests this evening. And I think, don't we have like a CFP quarterfinal tonight? Bowl games and CFP and stuff, that's going to be on down here in the office. We're going to be entertaining up in the mid-level and all that kind of stuff. So it's our last opportunity to entertain here in 2025. And so the boss said, we're doing it. And this is the night. And so tonight it is going to be an opportunity for us to entertain for folks that are coming here and hanging out. Programming note. You know our friend Glenn Davis in Houston and his program Soccer Matters at ESPN 97.5. I will be on it tonight. We're going to be taping it this afternoon because of the to-do here at the Casa. It would be, if I couldn't do it live because, we're having a party. So we're going to tape with Glenn Davis this afternoon. It'll be on Glenn's show tonight. And so we can't thank Glenn enough for rolling out the red carpet for us to come and hang out with him for a little bit to discuss what's on his mind heading into 26, and we'll talk about 25. So that's your rundown of everything today. So Morning Espresso brought you opening kickoff. You can subscribe to that. You can listen to it. You can get the newsletter. You can watch. You can listen. A bunch of different ways to get your day started with us at Morning Espresso, presented by our friends at Oglethorpe University. Then once again, it's here with us. And then tonight I will be on Glenn Davis's show in Houston. And Glenn hasn't given me a rundown yet. But whatever it is, we'll talk about it. We'll have fun and we'll do our thing. But tonight I'm on Glenn Davis's show, ESPN 97.5, and it's presented by the Daspit Law Firm, I believe. It's one of Glenn's sponsors. That's the one I could remember off the top of my head because you can't forget a name like Daspit. So Daspit Law Firm, and it is all over the place. So, all right, let's see. Abby says she's got a little bit to do this morning. 3 furnace filters. Yikes. 3 furnace filters. Not cool. And it is officially, and Alex is absolutely correct. It is Chris Kwanzaa, yes, and everything stays out till 1/7. And yes, respecting the 12 days of Christmas there in the house. So this is where we bring in KCD, and we get to ask her about the holidays, and if she is still, completely and totally just balling out when it comes balling when it comes to everything Christmas. And so this is where we bring in Kacey D and find out what's going on in her mind. And it looks like, yeah, you're balling out. You're still balling out for Christmas, aren't you?
I'm home. I'm back. I didn't really travel too much, so I'm doing good.
So, all right. So let's see. You have the, what is it? Are those lilies behind you? Is that what that?
Fake ones,
Right.
yes.
Okay. So fake lilies and an equally artificial tree off your right
Yes.
shoulder. Okay.
Yes. Yes.
And you and I were discussing things yesterday. And so Owen got what he wanted for the holiday. You told me this.
Always, always. If anybody got the best gifts, it was Owen for sure. Like it's not even a question.
And yeah, because we noticed that Owen he was hanging out and partying outside, and he was hanging out with friends, and so he had play dates and everything else. It's like, yeah, I got my Christmas gifts. I'm gonna go outside and play. So
Yeah.
that was that pretty much how it was.
Pretty much, pretty much. And he had some guests and someone to like not be as boring as me and do the same thing every day. So he got some hikes, he got some trail walks and different things. And yeah, he had a great few days for sure.
All right, what about you?
It was good. It was good. I hosted some of my family. So they were here for about 5 days. And then I went to some more family a couple hours away and took Owen with. So besides a couple hours drive, no travel for me, which was great. Just decided to trick everyone into coming to see me.
There you go. Well, but considering that before that, and this was the reason that you weren't with us 2 weeks ago, was because of 30 minus 7 is 23. You were in Italy.
I was.
And you were hanging out with HOR and seeing what life was like at Como. So this is my first question for you. What was it like to experience Italian football? And you got to see both the men's and women's game, correct?
I did.
Okay, so what was it like for you to experience Italian soccer up close and personal with what's going on at Como, which says Fabregas is doing fantastic on the men's side. We don't necessarily get to find out about what else is going on over there. So what was this excursion like for you heading overseas?
It was amazing. It was a quick trip. I flew in to meet up with Heather to see first the women's game. I saw their last game of the fall season, which was wonderful. They ended up with a 4-0 win. They're top of the table, 5 points clear. They're trying to get promotion into Serie A on the women's side. They're in Serie B right now. They were in the 4th division when Heather O'Reilly took over as head of women's football and brought a different vision there, new sporting director, new head coach. And you could see a style and a brand that they've been implementing, and it's working in Serie B. So they're doing a great job there on the women's side. I wasn't able to stay throughout the entire week. They had a cup game as well against Inter, and they lost 2-1. They were down 1-0, equalized, ended up losing, but Inter sits 4th in Serie A. So I think it was a good measuring point and measuring stick for the women's side of some areas still to grow, but show how far they've come and how they can compete.
Okay, so since we've opened that door, let's go into 2025. And I asked you specifically what we were going to be doing today, and this is where we go and we make sure that we look at 25. Yes, and caffeine is definitely a desire.
Sorry, I got my gingerbread house. I'm still in the holiday spirit.
Nothing wrong with that. Like I said, we embrace the full holiday, the 12 days of Chris Kwanzaa, which I think Ricky says like 1617 and Alex. So 1617, that's where we are. Let's get into 2025, and this is where you open up the Kacey D. White High School senior yearbook, and we look at the senior class that is exiting here in 2025. When it comes to the NWSL, we got into the discussion yesterday about the HIP rule and what it looks like, and you can discuss that as much as you want when it comes to yays, nays, concerns, what have you. But when it comes to the NWSL in 2025, what stuck out in your mind that we need to pay attention to leaving 25 and heading into 26?
Well, first off, I just wonder if Alyssa Nair is going to score another goal in 2026. That's my hope. So on the humor side of things, I just love seeing that. I think it's always fun when you see some interesting things like that happen. So I'm going to keep my eye out to see if we got any late game drama from Alyssa Nair in 2026. We'll see on that. For the 2025 season, one of the things that we talked about all year that was unprecedented in a lot of ways was the way Kansas City Current had regular season form. It's always been so much closer than that at the top, and it was just unbelievable what they did, but then not being able to turn that into winning a championship. So I think they're going to come back extremely hungry. New head coach, interesting hire coming from the men's game. So I think that's going to be one to watch. Is they're so talented with now a chip on their shoulder. And how do they turn that into something really exciting in 2026 is something that fans, I think, should be aware of.
And you look at what happened in 25 with a lot of the big name franchises that we naturally gravitate toward. Washington, you know that Michelle Kang wants to invest. Their roster is stacked. Gotham is stacked. Angel City is going to want to rebound from what happened in 25. San Diego is going to want to go further. You've got a lot of these large city hub franchises that really want to come back and do some damage to make up for what didn't happen in 25.
Definitely. And I think it's going to be interesting to see the investment that continues to happen. It's already happening across the league in general. But as you mentioned, some of those clubs that definitely have higher expectations for their results. Not that every club doesn't, because I think they do, but some are in a position to really make that jump from a financial perspective as well, and what their expectation is of their fans, their front office, and everything. So I think we'll see that with some of them going into 2026.
And you mentioned 26. Boston has already tried to bring in big names. Ella Stevens has been a signee for Boston Legacy, and we find out that Denver Summit has agreed to a $450,000 deal with Pachuca Femenil to bring in Ayo Oke, the highest known incoming fee for an American player in NWSL history. So Denver and Boston ain't messing around either with what they're trying to do to get ready for 26.
Definitely not. You have to bring in players that are going to be franchise players and franchise names, and we all know that have at any level having a player that can be the difference maker is what really helps you. But they're still going to have to continue to form the bulk of their rosters, which they're starting to do. There's layering that in, but how deep can they get their rosters? We know that there are clubs who have had success in their first year. San Diego Wave was a prime example of that in an expansion year. So it's not out of the question that either of these clubs can compete, but they're going to have to continue to round out the roster. What we're starting to see is they're getting goalkeepers in, goal scorers, and now it's about filling in the rest of the pieces.
Okay, so in 2025 in the NWSL, was there one player for you that was a surprise that you didn't have on your radar? And this player just shows up and shows out. And you're like, okay, I didn't have that on my bingo card. Who was the surprise for you in 25? Anybody?
Ooh, that's a really good question.
And you can do Mount Rushmore if you want. You can do like 4 or 5 off the top of your head. It doesn't have to be like one individual.
I don't know. I don't know if there's one big surprise that stands out to me.
Yeah.
I do think I have to give Lily Reel some credit for what she did in her rookie year. And yes, she won Defender of the Year. I didn't have that on my bingo card.
Okay.
I thought she would come in. She'd be a solid defender. We all know what she did through youth national team. She's an obvious talent. What she did at UCLA, but coming in, earning the starting spot, and especially at outside back. So I think the way in which she inserted herself in her rookie year, not only in Gotham, but also to play a somewhat of a different position. She's normally a center back, but then to dominate like she did as a rookie, I think that was a big surprise for me. I thought it would take a year, 2 years, 3 years for her to have that type of impact.
College game. And you got to spend a lot of time with our buddy Glenn Davis, and as Glenn is another one of our OGs, and so it's always great to circle back with him. When you look at the ACC and the SEC from 2025, what sticks out in your brain is like the tent poles that we carry forward?
Well, I do think that what we saw was that the ACC continued to dominate at the highest level, getting 3 out of 4 teams in the Women's College Cup. They had 4 out of 4 the year before. That doesn't seem to be changing. And the SEC had some really top performing teams this year. And then you see a TCU get to the College Cup for the first time in program history. So there are other teams that are competing. But as we got into the NCAA tournament, it still kind of felt the same, where the ACC teams came through mostly unscathed and were able to deliver. And then one of them wins. And so I don't expect much different in 2026. I do think the gap is closing on results and how tight the games are and everything like that. But ultimately, those programs are still getting all the way to the end.
So you mentioned a TCU. Who are those? Who are those darned outsiders that could be knocking on the door to sit there? And it's like, you SEC people, you know, if it wasn't for you meddling kids, like the Scooby-Doo episode, you unmask the villain, and it's the SEC. Who comes in the mystery machine in 2026 that can do it? Is it somebody like a TCU? Is it somebody like a UCLA that had early work against teams in the SEC? Who can be those teams that can knock a door down?
I have a lot of trust in Eric Bell, but he's going to have to replace Seven Castaigne, or someone's going to have to step up for TCU to have a repeat type of year. It's going to be difficult to do. But with the transfer portal, we've talked about it this year. I mean, you can make some quick changes. So TCU, you never know. I will not count them out. I think they have a great staff. They've completely changed that program. I think for me, and this is going to sound really ACC biased, and I'm going to do it, but Notre Dame has to figure out how to turn how good they are into getting even further in the tournament. They are such a solid team. I had them picked to go to the College Cup, like no questions asked in my mind. So they have a lot of youth. Their top players are underclassmen. Now they're not going to be. So I think they're the team to watch of getting in there, and maybe we see a different ACC team at the College Cup next year.
So when it comes to Notre Dame, we don't get to complain about Notre Dame not being in the ACC in women's soccer like they are in football, right?
Exactly. No, we don't. They're in the ACC. I'll stay with women's soccer on this subject.
Just like I said, just check it, because it's like everybody's kvetching about Notre Dame on the football side. Well, if you joined a conference, then you'd be in the CFP 12. Like I said, I just want to double check to make sure full-fledged member. They're not just drifting in, drifting out. I just, like I said, just wanted to check from sport by sport. So now let's get into Major League Soccer a little bit.
Okay.
And when it came to what the Wonder Twins, what you and Jessica Charman were able to do this past season, you got to go to a bunch of different places. I know that you got to spend time at the 106 by, I think you went to the 106 by 68 up in the Bronx, didn't you? Or did you go to Shea?
We were doing Citi Field. Yeah.
Okay. Yes. Okay. So it's not quite 106 by 68, but it's close. It's not quite. It
felt closer. I'm going to be, or like smaller, honestly, but yeah.
Okay. So then, you know, next season, if you go to a game at Citi, walk it off like Peter Vermees did in the Bronx at Yankee Stadium to figure out if it's 106 by 68 or if it
I'd be doing that if I was still on the sideline. I'll tell you what, as a coach, I would 100% be walking that out.
I mean, and so when you look at Major League Soccer from 2025, and we're in silly season now where folks are grabbing names, and Schaffelberg goes from Nashville to LAFC, which was a fantastic pickup for them.
Yes.
When you look at 25, what sticks out in your mind about Major League Soccer that you got to see?
Well, one thing I have to say was just how much fun and how grateful I was to be a part of Major League Soccer coverage in 2025. So from a personal level, that was such a highlight. And I have to point out the Atlanta game where I met you for the first time. And it was only my second game with Major League Soccer for Apple TV, and my first one in stadium. So just from a sense of humility and gratefulness and in the holiday spirit, I have to point that out. And look, I'm on this now weekly, and this came from it. So that was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But I think for me, what stood out was I was really impressed from a tactical perspective and speaking with coaches, like to have that inside track with some of the coaches and some of the adaptations that I went from being a fan of MLS to covering MLS. And for me, it was really nice to just see the level of players, coaches, and what they contribute on a weekly basis. You don't get that as just a fan and just someone who watches games. You can see it playing out, but to have that inside track of talking with teams, we talked about it a lot with Mascherano and some of the changes he had to make. He's one example. Pascal Janssen at New York City, I thought was amazing this year in what he did, and having conversations with him about how he sees the game and things like that. Those are the types of things that I'll remember from 2025.
I was going to say, since you have done both the playing part and the coaching part, getting to pick the brain of those other coaches, who were some of the you mentioned Janssen, but who did you learn the most from when it came to opening your eyes and coaching, or was it just like, yeah, I learned from Mascherano, I learned from Pascal, I learned from all of it, but was there an eye-opening conversation from one of those guys that just kind of stands out to you?
That's a good question. I had a little bit from a couple. Eric Ramsey and I had a really nice conversation. We both did our badges over in Wales, and so we were talking about the coaching education piece. We didn't do it together or the same years,
but just you got your coaching, you got your license in Wales.
I did my UEFA B and A license in Wales. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we had like some little, tactical conversations within the coaching calls. Dean Smith was lovely. Had good conversations with him about how he approaches games. I will say, I've already mentioned Pascal, and he was probably my favorite coach to talk to in a lot of ways, not only from a demeanor perspective and just like being able to connect, but also to really get inside his mind. But since I already mentioned him, I'm going to bring up Chris Armas because I had a conversation with him when he was with the Rapids. Now he's obviously going to the NWSL with the Kansas City Current, so I'm looking forward to more conversations. Mm-hmm. He spent probably almost an hour on the phone and as a media group, as a broadcasting group. And he was so open and so willing to speak tactics and go really into that. And, I don't blame coaches, but a lot aren't. And I'm fascinated by that because I was a coach and I did my badges and I love that piece. So I just always appreciate when coaches can and are willing to be open. And Chris Armas definitely was.
Okay, since we're talking Armas, let me ask you this. For him to go to Kansas City, I mean, that's a bit of an odd duck to go from Major League Soccer to NWSL. I'm not knocking the hire. I'm just saying that's an interesting trajectory to go. How do you think he will translate from Major League Soccer to NWSL with a franchise that is ridiculously talented? And is it a situation where it's like, dude, just don't wreck the bus? I mean, just hang on to it, make sure the brakes work, and then you hit the what? How does this translate to you at first glance?
Well, to that last thing you just said, I think any coach they hire is going to feel that. Anytime you take over a franchise that has the success that Kansas City Current has, you're going to think that. But let's not forget they didn't win. And so you have more to achieve. And so that takes a little bit of that pressure off. But you're right, it can get worse. They could not be performing as well in the season. So there's always that pressure. The first thing I would want to say when I address that is that I love seeing a men's coach going into the female game and females going over into the men's game. I think those types of moves are for the good of the game. And so I like seeing that from him. I think for Chris Armas, like any coach, it's going to be about how do you connect with your players? Because that's how you get the best performance out of people. And then tactically understanding what works in the NWSL. We've seen a lot of coaches come in from different places, whether it's domestically, overseas. And that first year, they're like, wow, this league is different than maybe coaching in Europe or maybe coaching in the men's game. There are going to be nuances, just like as a broadcaster, when you're watching a men's game versus a women's game, so many similarities, but there are nuances to the games. And I think how he adapts to that and sets them up tactically will serve as his success.
Yeah, and I want everyone to remember when it comes to Chris Armas, yes, he's from the Red Bull school, but that does not mean that he is going to bring his Red Bull yearbook into Kansas City with that offensive talent that is there. And yeah, it's like, okay, so yeah, by the way, yeah, Temushwanga, you're going to press and you're going to do the Ralph Ragnick press and you're going to be up there. No, that's not how it's. I know everybody's sitting there going, oh my God, it's going to be, Red Bulls. And no, it's not going to be Red Bulls and Current.
Yeah.
The aspects of it, where Mickey tells Rocky to start fighting left-handed and Rocky too, he just yells, "You get now." And then they go in. But just as a caveat, it's not going to be, I don't think, I mean, I have no intel on this, but it's not just going to be flipped over to be Red Bullsian in nature when it comes to Armas and Kansas City. So
I agree with coaching. One, you have to coach from a place of authenticity, but every place you go and every stop you make informs what you feel works in certain moments. You take some things and you leave some things. And that's what the best coaches are doing. They are evolving. But every coach will tell you that the way you want to play in your style, you have to have the players to be able to execute that. So either you meet the players where they're at, which Kansas City Current has already been very successful. So I assume a lot of that's going to happen, or you have to bring the players in that fit your style. That's more of a long-term vision plan. So that'll be something to watch with Chris Armas coming in and taking over for Kansas City.
Just a bit of a bolo for our Atlanta United fans. It's the 280 character app for Atlanta United has posted as of about 5 minutes ago a 5 stripes don't stop alert. So we know what those mean. It means that it looks like they're signing someone. And usually when they come up for the announcement at 9:30, that individual is announced at 10. So we'll keep an eye on social media. Maybe it's 10:03 or 9:57 or whatever. But it looks like another 5 stripes transaction is going to be made here in the window coming up in just a little bit. When I mention, and one of our taglines, one of our tenets basically, is that we're around the corner from everywhere. And I wanted to ask you about the sport of soccer. And when I mention that the sport of soccer is around the corner from everywhere, what does that mean to you as you've seen the game grow, as you've come from where you have as a part of the North Carolina tree and everything? When I mention around the corner from everywhere and the sport of soccer, what resonates with you with that?
The accessibility piece of the game. I think one of the things that we've always talked about overseas, and this is a bigger conversation, is that you can just pick up a ball, put down some shoes, and you can play. And I think we're starting to see that a little bit more in the States, but you're also not only seeing it where everyone can be involved, but now the ability to watch the game. It's not just on one channel with one level. You're seeing the women, you're seeing the men, you're seeing NWSL awards on ESPN, on like actual ESPN, not ESPN Plus, not ESPNU. Well, it's not college, so it wouldn't be. Not ESPN2, like ESPN. And so I think those types of things at the highest level are growing for accessibility and visibility on the men's and the women's side. For someone like me who I haven't played in, what's it been? Almost 14 years now. To watch that, we struggled with that as the women's national team, getting visibility, getting fans, things like that. So now we're talking about it at different levels, and just how much it's grown. It's exciting to see.
All right. Best individual, and I guess this is where we go into our Oscars here. Best individual performance that you were front and center for in 2025 was where?
That I was on the call for?
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, this might just be because it's fresh in my mind. And I'm not kissing up to you because it's the Florida State Seminoles. Jordan Dudley in the national championship for me, lights out. Lights out. Actually, the whole College Cup. Jordan Dudley, we saw what she could do for Florida State her freshman year when they won the national championship. She was new on the scene. Yes, people knew who she was coming out of high school, but I don't think anyone thought a freshman could do that. To replicate that, and she had some ups and downs this season. True champions, true talent show up when it really matters. And she was huge in the national championship. I called that game with Jen, and I just remember saying that is a player that is like possessed, that wants to win, that wants to get after it, and is shining by example. So that's a recent one. So it's in my memory right now. But that's one that stands out.
Milton, Georgia, Cambridge High. Yes, Jordan Dudley. We've seen her progression going from our high school coverage, and now that she is now that she is she's in Tallahassee. Yeah,
I knew you were gonna like that.
Yeah,
like that.
I mean it's it's always good because look, I have to latch onto something because my American football team is hideous.
Who's your American team?
Well, Florida State University is what I mean. My.
Oh, I was like, I thought you were saying like an NFL team. I was like, who's your team?
Well, the Chargers, but I mean, yeah. So I'm stuck with Jim Harbaugh as the head coach.
Yeah, we won't get into that.
Well, I get into it enough. It's on a Sunday. Look, my fantasy team was 3-25 this year.
That's not great.
No.
I just lost in the championship of my fantasy football league yesterday, so I'm a little bit bitter, but that's okay.
Yeah, but I'm hoping that finishing second out actually got you a little something that was attached to it. That's a little something. Yeah, Yeah, I mean, it's you get your entry fee back and all that kind of stuff.
Exactly. Well, I
Right.
didn't mean
Yeah.
to upset you. I apologize. I can go to like an MLS performance if you want to get off
Yeah.
the football.
Yeah. Yeah. So what was your so MLS performance? What sticks there?
On where I was on the call was a stretch of games by Toklamati, where he had a big final goal against New England Revolution. Then he had, I believe it was a hat trick the game before I wasn't on the call for, but he was in that form
Mhm.
for Charlotte FC. I really enjoyed watching his emergence. I think I'm a bit of a sucker for someone who wasn't playing as much, and then they get that opportunity and then they come through for their team. So I'll have to point him out. And yes, I'm going with the goal scorers, which is kind of unlike me,
I
even though
know.
the player in Casey is coming out right now because I was an attacking player. Coach in me would try to find someone a little bit more nuanced, but I'm going to go with them.
Wow, and you actually went third person reference too.
I did.
The player in Casey. Yeah, a third person reference. That's $1 in the
I'm
jar.
pulling out all the stops for our last one of 2025. Come on.
No doubt. When it comes to New Year's, what is it going to be quiet for you? Making sure how is Owen with fireworks?
Okay. He sometimes I think is so like unaware he doesn't even realize it's going on. But I'm not a big New Year's person. I'm kind of a quiet New Year's. I'm considering doing like a good dinner somewhere and then coming in for the night and just watching the ball drop, hanging out. So yeah, I don't have any big plans unless something in the next 24 hours comes up. Last year was Heather O'Reilly's 40th birthday. She has a birthday in a couple days after New Year's. So that was one time that I had a nice big New Year's, went out. This time, I think it's going to be a little bit more relaxed.
Understood. So let's see. So
What
if
about you?
oh God, it's going to be no, it's indoors. No, look, no, it is for me. It is amateur hour, and
Love it.
well, and it's just like nope, not going out, not doing nothing. And Rowdy is very very skittish when it
Oh,
comes to fireworks.
that's
And we're in one of those subdivisions where we have a church literally next to us, and we're like toward the front of our subdivision entrance. And so there's a church next door to us, and they've got a fairly decent sized parking lot, and they let the neighborhood kids come and launch fireworks or whatever. It has apparently turned into and this almost might be an opening kickoff kind of a thing. This has literally turned into a situation where it is that they go to like South Carolina and buy everything, and it is like the 1812 overture in Washington D.C., and it is like loud, and it is thumping, and it is fireworks, and it is a good half hour to 45 minutes worth of a display, and literally it takes everything in my person to stay in this house instead of opening my front door, going over next door to the church parking lot, trying to find a water hose. And if I could just absolutely drench all of them and their fireworks, I would do it. If
You
I could.
need a staycation somewhere. Like take Rowdy, get out. Like do not be in your neighborhood. You need to take it as a staycation. Although the price gouging is probably crazy.
That too.
You need to do that. That might be a new idea for 2026 to 2027 if it's too late. But
Well,
just
yeah.
to get you guys out of there, and we don't want the children to be doused with water in their fireworks. So
Why not? If they deserve it for launching all of the really loud things and just being obnoxious about it. And
there.
it's not even and there's like two waves. Literally there's the one wave that's like about, 9:30 or so, and then there's the one at midnight. And you're just sitting there going, "Didn't you guys blow up your entire stash at 9:30?" The answer to that is no.
They're very strategic.
And so they end up and it's the ones at 9:30 that are the high powered stuff. And because the church in and of itself is in kind of like a U shape, it's literally it resonates off of all of the buildings of the church, and it just makes it sound that much more just like that much more powerful. And it just you're like, can you guys like, oh, I don't know, go to go to Asheville or Highlands or something and just launch it off of the top of Klingman's Dome. Just don't even come anywhere near here. I mean, that's what I'm see. Now you got me on a New Year's.
We have hit a nerve, is what I'm realizing right now. How dare the church support the children in their
how
fireworks?
dare I don't mind the church supporting the kids because they do like the trunk or treats. I get that. But if you're supporting the launching of fireworks I don't need it to be like the one on the Washington Mall being recreated, and that's what they
Completely.
wanna do in a shortened space. It literally is like a 50-yard by 30-yard, parking lot with the church that has it reverberate off of the brick, so
I will say, if you're not involved with fireworks, it's like the worst thing.
this is what I'm saying.
Hearing fireworks. If you're there and you're involved and you're like, yay, and like it's okay for a while, and then you get a headache at some point. Maybe that's my
Mhm.
age.
Yeah.
I went to a July 4th Durham Bulls game, and the fireworks were amazing. But after like 10, 12 minutes, I was like, all right, enough's enough.
You're like, "Yeah, it's like I got a thing here." All right, so, you're coming back next Tuesday, yes?
Yes, sir.
What do you wanna talk about next Tuesday? Is there any topic in your head that you wanna I mean, we can continue to go down NWSL lines and things like that. We didn't talk about the high impact player rule in NWSL, so we can get into that. For those that watched yesterday, I have concerns. I like the idea, but I have concerns. And so
Mhm.
we kind of walked through that. So if you want to talk about the NWSL getting hip, we can do that. And seriously, if you ever want to bring in Heather because it's like just after her birthday or
I'm
anything,
gonna hold that card in my back pocket for you. No, I'm just kidding.
I just literally look, and this is your segment here on Tuesday. So if you want to bring in any kind of accompaniment, seriously, that's what it's here for, and we can sit there and do whatever. Glad you got to go overseas. Glad you got to see what's going on with Como. I had to ask about the growth of the game overseas and what it's like for you with Serie A, Serie B, Serie C, Femenil, and all that kind of stuff. Can't thank you enough for everything that you've done here in 25. We know that you're going to keep crushing it, and we'll see you in 26, my friend. Be safe.
Sounds good. Thank you.
There goes, there goes Casey D. And so Casey D, she's going to go like have a normal existence for a little while, and she's going to enjoy things for a week. But it's always good to catch up with Casey and find out what's going on in her universe. Apparently, and this is just a couple of things that happened within the last half hour. It appears that, according to our friend Cesar Luis Merlo, Yorgos Giacomakis is not going to Brazil. It was rumored that Cruz Azul and Atletico Mineiro were going back and forth on a fee. And it was in the neighborhood of $6.5 million, considering what Giacomakis was able to do at PAOK when he was on loan. I think it was 5 goals in 13 matches. And so Atletico Mineiro was like, ooh. Number was floated at 6.5. Now, apparently, according to Cesar Luis Merlo, not going to happen. And so, apparently, and this is how it's phrased, and this is also translated. So, bear with me. Cesar Luis Merlo, as it is translated, Giacomakis did not accept going to Brazil, and his transfer to Atletico Mineiro fell through. So, now let's go into the article from Cesar Luis Merlo. Negotiations with Atletico Mineiro fell through. Okay. Negotiation between Atletico and yes, I want to just give me the one that's for free. It's like, I'm trying to read an article and then it says, well, you know what you can do? You can sign in for this article for free. But I'm like halfway reading the thing. So all right. So negotiation between Atletico Mineiro and Giacomakis will not have a positive outcome. Once again, remember this is translated from our friends at UOL and Cesar Luis Merlo. So Giacomakis, despite Atletico Mineiro making a very attractive offer, being close to an agreement with Cruz Azul, the owner of the striker's economic rights, the deal was discarded by the player himself, who has no interest in playing Brazilian football. Atletico Mineiro had offered $6.5 million US, an amount the Mexican club was willing to accept, provided Giacomakis gave the green light for the transfer. However, the Greek striker's approval never came, which ended the negotiations. At 30, currently plays for PAOK, where he's on loan. Contract stipulates that a potential sale would allow him to leave with financial compensation, but this possibility will not materialize, at least not in the case of Atletico Mineiro. So Yorgos Giacomakis not going to, I feel like Maury Povich, you are not going to Atletico Mineiro in Brazil. So that's the latest with Yorgos Giacomakis and a possible move to yet another locale, and so that has fallen through. So we'll keep an eye out on any future places of residence for Yorgos Giacomakis, and we'll find out what is We'll find out what might be on his dance card going forward. A couple of other pieces of news. Brennan Johnson looks like he is going to get poached by a team not known as Bournemouth. Because right now, we mentioned in the Premier League that Antoine Semenyo's like, I want to have my future figured out by January 1st. Bournemouth is like, we need to have the future figured out by the 10th so we can come up with a replacement. It appeared that Bournemouth was kind of kicking the tires on Brennan Johnson at Spurs. And remember, the release clause is £65 million. And then Manchester City there at the front of the line and discussing the future of Antoine Semenyo. So it looked like it was going to be Brennan Johnson that was going to be under the magnifying glass for Bournemouth. That is no longer the case because Crystal Palace have agreed to a fee in the region of 35 for Brennan Johnson. And so he's on the radar. Bournemouth and Everton. Palace seen as front runners. Club record deal for the Eagles, although Johnson is yet to agree to personal terms. TalkSport revealed earlier in the month Spurs were open to selling him. Bournemouth and Everton on the radar. Cherries expected the anticipated sale of Semenyo to free up funds. Once again, $65 million. But now Palace looks like they have gazumped here and stolen the march, according to TalkSport, agreeing to a deal to see Johnson become the most expensive signing in their history. Estimated £35 million fee would surpass the Benteke fee of 27 from almost a decade ago. And it represents a loss for Spurs. Brought him in for 47.5 back in 23. Still would represent the fourth highest sale in Spurs history behind Bale, Kane, and Kyle Walker. If he approves the switch, significantly boost Oliver Glasner's attacking options as they once again have the 9 matches in a month coming up because they couldn't take care of business at the end of Conference League and didn't finish in the top 8. They finished, I think, in a tie for 9th and didn't quite have it happen for them. So they have to have the playoff to continue going in the tournament. And so it's now 9 matches in a month coming up for Crystal Palace, and they're trying to come up with reinforcements. And so it looks like now Brennan Johnson and Crystal Palace might be the deal. Also, Russell Martin. We talked about this a bit last night on Soccer Over There. Russell Martin is in line to perhaps, possibly, maybe, probably be the new head coach for Columbus Crew. And Jarrett had made the point about Russell Martin, who was the former coach at Rangers, lasted basically 4 months. So he lasted 4 months. He's been gone for 2. So 123 days, if I remember correctly, was the number that Jarrett gave. And so you have Wilfred Nancy leaving Crew, going to Celtic, and the possibility of Russell Martin being fired by Rangers, taking over at Crew. Keep an eye out on that. So Russell Martin looks like he might be heading in that direction. And from all appearances, it looks like the negotiations with Martin are pretty far down the road. So a lot of folks were sitting there saying, yeah, Rangers and Russell Martin. He lasted 17 matches, winning 5, losing and drawing 6 each. Left Rangers 8th in the table and 123 days. So Columbus has emerged as a potential option ahead of the 26th season. And you've got the idea of Martin taking over Crew. And I know that a lot of folks may look at Russell Martin and look at him being very, very rigid in his structure, where he will take his game plan and change it, as you should, on a game-by-game basis instead. And this is one of the things that has kind of gotten to me recently, where you've got folks that are looking for coaches to change their formational makeup. You see this overseas more than you see it here. And I don't know where the genesis of it comes from, unless it's just the fact of, well, your formation isn't working, you need to change it. Ruben Amorim was like, for the longest time, no, we're going to stick with what I got. Russell Martin is like, no, we're going to stick with the formation. I will change my game plan, which is what I would anticipate coaches would want to do anyway. You know, game by game, it's like, nope, I'm not going to change my game plan. We're just going to do this, and whatever happens, happens. But yeah, Russell Martin changes his game plan instead of his formational makeup, and everybody overseas freaks out about it. It's like, well, this isn't working. Rah! No, and that's why he would decide to change game planning game by game, match by match, instead of sitting there saying, well, my formation is awful and, whatever. For those that might sit there and go, yes, he's very, very rigid in his stylistics. Here's a guy who has learned and appreciated from Daniel Farka, Pep Guardiola. So that's what I think you're looking at for Crew stylistically when he's coming in the door, if this is in fact the road that we're going down. So just keep an eye out for that. So it appears that well down the road, it looks like Russell Martin might maybe be the new head coach, or at least the guy who's at the front of the line when it comes to Crew. And if this does in fact happen, we'll catch up with our friend Chris Doran and get his thoughts on all of this after the new coach is announced, those kinds of things. And so we'll keep an eye on Russell Martin. We'll keep an eye out what's going on with the Premier League, and we'll let you know if Martin ends up with Crew, and we'll go from there. All right. So I mentioned the Premier League today. It is part of festive fixtures, and you have 6 matchups today. Burnley and Newcastle, and you got 4 of them at 2:30 and 2 of them at 3:15. Burnley hosting Newcastle at Turf Moor. Newcastle's a -172. Burnley's a +467. Draws a +311. Chelsea hosting Bournemouth. Chelsea a -189. Bournemouth a +463. Concerns about their defense as of the last couple of matches. Draws a +355. Forest hosting Everton at City Ground at a +112. Everton's a +272. Draws a +222. West Ham hosting Brighton. Brighton is a road favorite at a +104. That number's come down a little bit. West Ham's a +248. Draws a +270. And we mentioned yesterday that Slaven Bilic is being thought of as a possible replacement if the board sacks Nuno. West Ham is in trouble. We'll go over the points in a bit. Arsenal and Villa, 3:15, the match of the day. Arsenal, and this is, to me, this is disrespectful, and the numbers have gotten bigger. Arsenal's a -233, draws a +372. Villa's a +615. If I was Pars and our resident Villa fans, I'd be pissed. A +615. A +615 for this matchup. Are you serious with that? That's crazy to me that number would be that high. And then Manchester United hosting Wolves. Wolves chasing after something resembling a win. They only have 2 draws, and this is the halfway point of the season. They're on their way to being the worst Premier League side in the history of the league. Wolves at a +701 in the composite. Manchester United -270, draws a +415. So coming into today, your standings. Arsenal 2 points clear. Manchester City 42 points to 40. This is match day 19. This is the halfway point of the season. Villa's at 39 points. Manchester City and Villa have each won their last 5. Liverpool unbeaten in 5. They won their last 3. They're that first chase group at 32 points. Chelsea's 5th at 29. 1-1-1 in their last 3. They've hit each column. Ahead of Manchester United on goal difference. Sunderland, who's done fantastic. They've lost once in their last 5. They only have 1 win in their last 5, though. They are at 28 points, and they're in 7th. Brentford at 26 points ahead of Crystal Palace on goal difference. Crystal Palace has lost 3 in a row. And this is why Oliver Glasner is screaming for reinforcements. Fulham at 26 points, behind both Brentford and Crystal Palace on goal difference. That gets you to your top 10. Spurs 11th. Snapped a 2-game losing streak last time out. They're at 25 points. They are well ahead of Everton in goal difference. Everton has not won in their last 3. Brighton's in 13th. They have not won in their last 5. They have 2 points in their last 5. Newcastle at 23 points in 14th. Bournemouth had drawn their last 3 before losing last time out. Leeds, unbeaten in their last 5, although they've won 2 and drawn 3. Forest has lost 3 of 4. They're at 18 points. And that gets us to the relegation fight. West Ham right now, 5 points from safety, 13 points, 3, 4, and 11. -17 in goal difference, 13 points. Burnley has drawn their last 2, so Scotty Parker, their head coach, has gotten a little bit of mileage here recently. And then there's Wolves. Heading into the halfway point of the season, no wins, 16 losses, 2 draws. That is horrendous. 10 goals have been scored in 18 matches. They've given up 39. So that's an average of what? 2.17 goals allowed per match. Goal difference of minus 29, 2 points on the year. Does somebody slip up here in festive fixtures? I don't think it's going to be Liverpool. But once again, remember, Jurgen Strand-Larsen might be on the market in January. He might want away. I wouldn't be surprised. And they might be putting up, they meaning Wolves, a stupid offer to Nashville for Sam Surridge. So we'll keep an eye out on that. If Surridge leaves, Schaffelberg is gone. Now then you've got to find a dance partner with Hani Mukhtar. So that's the quest/question going forward for Nashville. If somebody comes to the table and says, hey, yo, we're interested, can you help a man out? We'll find out here in a bit. Speaking of finding out, guess what? We go here. Thomas Jakob is now an Atlanta United player. Your Five Stripes Don't Stop 280 characterization that happened at 9:30. Defender joins from Necaxa as a U22 signing. So Thomas Jakob announced they've signed Jakob from Club Necaxa to a contract through 28-29, option years through 30-31, occupying a U22, pending the receipt of his international transfer certificate and P1 visa. Quote from Chris Henderson. Tomas is a talented young player with the versatility to play in multiple positions. We're excited to watch his development continue with Atlanta United. Going to add some competition to the back line and is well suited for Tata's style of play. Look forward to welcoming him to the club in the city of Atlanta, end quote. 67 career first division appearances, Argentina and Mexico, native of Santa Fe. Joined Newell's Academy. Once again, Newell's Old Boys Academy. Lucas Hoyos from Newell's. Thomas Jakob from the Academy. Progressed through the ranks, first division debut against Independiente back in 2021. 14 league appearances during the 22 season, first career assist against Godoy Cruz. Splitting time with the first and second team, made 13 first division appearances in 24, 13 and 25, playing as a right back, center back, and central midfielder. Remember, that's what Chris Henderson is discussing when it comes to the versatility of a player like Thomas Jakob, is that he can play as a 6, he can also play as a center back, and he can also play as a right back. These kind of Swiss Army knife type folks are what you're squaring up. So, transferred to Necaxa back in July, made his club debut 3 days later in a match against Querétaro. 12 of 14 appearances were starts in the Apertura. Goal against Atlas in September. Started all 3 of Necaxa's League Cup matches, including their opening match against Atlanta United at Mercedes-Benz Stadium back on July 30. 6'2", 21 years old, Santa Fe, Argentina. Once again, signed through 28-29, option years through 30-31. Pending the receipt of his ITC and P1 visa, he's going to occupy a U22. So right now, it is Hibbert and Hoyos in net. Defenders, Amador, Baracol, who's on loan from Getafe through the end of the fiscal year. DCQ, belated happy birthday, DCQ. Matt Edwards, Stian Gregerson, Thomas Jakob, and Mihai Caden Moore, who turns homegrown in 2 days. Midfielders, Almiron Alzate, Jay, Saba, Miranchuk, Mosqueda, who's on loan with Millonarios through the end of the fiscal year, and do not anticipate anything happening with Edwin Mosqueda at the moment until, with that loan ending. Do not anticipate any kind of a renewal from the Atlanta United side. Muyumba Santipita, who is a homegrown, effective 2 days from now. Will Riley, Cooper Sanchez, Bart Sleesh, Aiden Torres. Forwards, Luke Brennan, Ashton Gordon, Elate Lot, Jamal TRA, and Cayman Togashi. So you have 27 currently on the roster as of this morning. So Thomas Jakob signs through 28-29. That is official. The numbers that were floated around by Tom Bogert were $5 million. Obviously, no confirmation of that from Atlanta United when it comes to a price tag. So let's see if there is anything that is attached to the Thomas Jakob transaction. And let's see. You've got, okay, so signing is official on a U22. I'm going back through Tom Bogert. Newell's Old Boys English News. Newell's Old Boys English News back on the 27th had the number at $5 million US. And so that's whether they got it from Tommy Scoops or Tommy Scoops got it from them, don't know. But $5 million is the number that has been mentioned more than once from folks outside the city of Atlanta. So Cesar Luis Merlo looping back in behind Tom Bogert back on the 27th. Everyone's still quoting the $5 million fee and the U22. So yeah, so that's what you're staring at. Everyone seems to be rolling back to the Tom Bogert mention of the fee of $5 million. 6 months with the Rio deal in the works, and Rincon mentions it as well. Like I said, so nothing nothing to advance any of the previous information that we had, and a lot of folks are cycling back to the $5 million fee, and that's kind of where we are. So, and then you go back to replacement for Thomas Jakob arriving from Argentina. So that's kind of where you're at. So $5 million is the fee. That's what has been reported, and everybody's referencing the Tom Bogert article for that $5 million. So we'll find out what it looks like. But versatile player in Thomas Jakob. So let's go back into and let's see if we can find out the number of matches that he has done with each. Transfermarkt has him listed at €1.5 million when it comes to his identity and his price tag. So start following him on the Insta, by the way, and it is out there and available. So matches his highest value on the board. So main position looks like it's a 6 or as a central midfielder. But he has played center back and right back in his time. So profile all seasons. I don't want just the current season. So once again, here's an Agent Universal 22. So 23 matches as a center back, 10 as a D mid. One time he played as a central midfielder, and then right back. So center back 23 matches, right back 22, and he's played center mid and right mid when asked to. So we got the 1 goal in his professional career as a center back, and he had 1 assist as a right back. But yeah, center back and right back are 45 of his 57 professional matches, or 45, 50. Yeah, so 50 at Newell's, 17 at Necaxa. So 67 matches on the board, and most of his time is spent at center back and right back in the systems that he's played, either at Newell's or at Necaxa. So that is Thomas Jakob and his appearances and performances by competition. So thanks to our friends at Transfermarkt for breaking that down for us. But Thomas Jakob, reported fee of $5 million to Necaxa, comes in as a U22 and can work either once again as a center back or as a center mid, center back, right back. So that's kind of what you're staring at with Thomas Jakob going forward. It is Thomas. Let me check real quick because. Oh, hang on, because it was the conversation was, I think it's Jakob. So hang on. Yeah, Jakob. So emphasis on the second syllable. So Jakob. And so it's the second syllable. So Jakob with the Argentine attachment to the end. So second syllable, Jakob. So Thomas Jakob. And that's where that's where we are with Jakob, and so he's the new guy. So that's another piece that has been added by Tata Martino and Chris Henderson to shore up activity at the back. You're getting young, and you've got Lucas Hoyos, who's brought in to help out the youth between the sticks. So that's where we are. Once again, 27 players right now on the current roster for Atlanta United, and we're a couple of weeks away from training camp. Literally 2 weeks away from training camp for Major League Soccer. And we've had a couple of transactions. We mentioned the Jacob Schaffelberg move yesterday. Justin Hack is in Los Angeles. So you have that movement that is going on. And the conversation that we had with our buddy Nico Moreno, back on Friday about that is that it was desperately needed for LA, desperately needed for Los Angeles. So you need that help defensively. Minnesota, we didn't really get into this much last time. Minnesota United gets Tomas Shankalai from the Revs to help them out offensively. And Chicago Fire signing Robin Lod away from Minnesota United, which I find to be interesting. So it's intriguing to see that go down with that move. Seattle has re-signed Paul Rothrock. Obviously, when we catch up with our buddy Nico Moreno on Friday, we'll get into that a little more. And San Jose signing Bo LaRue to a contract extension. Bruce Arena has been very, very high on Bo LaRue. Gave him a lot of early playing time last season. And so now Bo LaRue gets a contract extension with San Jose through June of 28, an option for 29. 5 + 4 and 33 appearances, 25 starts during his rookie season last year. Young Player of the Year award, picked 42nd overall in the 24 MLS Super Draft. And two sentences from Bruce Arena. We're pleased. We're pleased to sign Bo LaRue to a new contract. Sentence 1. Sentence 2, Bo has a bright future in the league. Sentence 3, we look forward to seeing him continue to grow and contribute to the team in 2026. So literally 3 sentences from Bruce Arena on signing Bo LaRue to a contract extension. So that's what you get from there. All right. It is 12 minutes after the hour, and we are late. We're late. We're horribly late. Kaylor Hodges, we caught up with Kaylor, and we are getting the latest about USL Championship, USL League One. There's a lot to digest from 25 going into 26. We do discuss the deal where the Bluegrass Derby is now front and center with Philip Goodrum. So here's our conversation with Kaylor Hodges when this is done and we've examined everything USL Championship and League One. We'll get you ready for the rest of the day. We'll go over AFCON, and we've got a bit of a John Texter update too. So here's our conversation with Kaylor Hodges, getting you ready for everything USL Championship and USL League One from 2025 heading into 26. All right, time to catch up with the busiest man in the USL Championship at the USL show, at Kaylor Hodges. Good to see you, my friend, one more time before we turn the calendar to 2026.
It's good to see you. I mean, we got New Year's coming on up. I hope you had a great holiday season.
I got a cold from my brother-in-law. How about that?
That seems about right. It's all about sharing and giving, and I never said what you share and give.
No, the season of giving, and he gave me and the boss his cold, and so yay to us. Yesterday on the morning show, before we got out, news came across, and I have to ask this in a singular sense and then in a collective sense. Philip Goodrum goes from Lou City to Lexington. And Lexington, looking at their roster, they're stacking up, folks. What did you think about the 6-figure deal in the first place of Goodrum going from Lou to Lex? And then what is this saying about what Lexington is doing? Literally, it's like, is it Lexington SC Savings and Loan that's going on here? I mean, literally, it's like Scrooge McDuck all of a sudden with Lexington here.
I mean, horse money is more than we could ever fathom, to be honest. I mean, have you seen what those horses sell for? I mean, come on. I mean, how do they make that money? There's no way that's real. Either way, it's impressive what Lexington is building. It's not the first time we've seen them do this, though. We saw them do this in League One, where they were building what we thought was a super team. They were outspending, I believe it was 4 USL championship teams when they were down in League One. They finished in last. We have not. This is not unusual, and this is not me to say Lexington bad, but
Right.
this is not the first time we've seen them do this. You know, they signed Malloy on a inner record or an inter league transfer that broke the previous record, which was Philip Goodrum from Tulsa to Louisville. Um, Now they add in Goodrum, who, with the kind of escalators that can happen with this, I'm assuming it's matches played and anything else, it can become the highest transfer in the history, already breaking Malloy, depending on what happens there. On top of that, they also got Arturo Ordonez, who he comes over from Lou City as already. There's a lot going on here, and Lexington continues to spend. And one thing I think is really fascinating, and I kind of mentioned it before, which is they did this back in League One. You would think that them doing this in League One and it failing so horrifically would scare them away from doing this again, and they just don't. They did it on the Super League side where they signed so many of the best players. I mean, they have Addie McCain and Amina Ekic in the same team. And they just continue to do stuff like this. And I know for a fact that there are general managers, there are directors of football, and that there are owners watching this very carefully. Because in conversations I've had with some directors of football, they have asked their owners, we need to spend more. We need to be able to compete. We need to be able to compete. We got to be able to compete. And they would tell them, and their owners would say, why will we spend $100,000 on buying players when we can spend $0 on buying players and make the same playoffs and host the same amount of home playoff games and get the same buy at the Apple?
Mhm.
If you look at what, let's say, Chattanooga Red Wolves, they finished second. Where did Spokane finish last year, who outspent everybody in the league? Third. Yeah, Spokane made the final. You can see where that difference in talent comes from. But who had the better season? Chattanooga. They spent nothing. You saw Pittsburgh and FC Tulsa, two of the bottom 10 teams in the league in terms of wage budget. And I believe going into 2025, Tulsa had the lowest wage budget in the USL. They hosted a USL championship final.
Mhm.
So there's a lot of teams who are watching this very closely and saying, okay, if Lexington goes and smashes everybody, just absolutely kills everybody else, we'll start spending money. But even if Lexington wins the Players' Shield, but if it comes down to the last few matches and they're having to be really competitive to secure it, that may not be enough for owners to, loosen up the budget a little bit. So there's a lot of people watching this project really closely.
Yep. Sporting Jacks has started to sign players. We caught up with their coach, who is still working his way to this side of the Atlantic. And so we're seeing that build happening as well. What are the early returns that you're seeing from JAX?
Yeah, I mean, Neville is going to be the one that I think is going to, a lot of people are going to say, hey, I know his dad.
Yeah.
But Rito is definitely the big one. You have two fullbacks. You have your left and your right sorted out. Dita Armstrong is someone who's really impressed. And they have done what they've done on the women's side. They've gone local. They decided, hey, we're going to go to North Florida, the University of North Florida. They're going to look at somewhere who's going to be local, like a UCF, local-ish. And they're going to take from that talent that has been largely unexplored. And so it's nice to see that they're already spending. They're spending a little bit more on free agents than their women's team did. But it looks like they're already going to be building from that local talent pool. And it's working out amazingly for the women's side. Hopefully we'll see the same thing out of the Jacksonville side.
You mentioned Malloy. You've got Tampa signing MD Myers.
And everybody else.
Yeah. So, Tampa Bay, after what happened last season and them kind of being wandering nomads and trying to find a home and having a really rough season there. Mikey Maldonado to San Antonio, Mukwele Akale. And there's this Tormenta vibe that happens with a couple of transactions. Mukwele Akale to Lou City. And the other one was Mason Tunbridge to not a Miami FC, but the Miami FC. You end up with Daroma to Colorado Springs, Tingy to Oakland Roots, Arturo to Sacramento Republic. I mean, there's a lot of shifting that's gone on. Eric Dick, I think, was a part of the movement to Indy 11. There's a lot of stuff going on here in the offseason.
You mentioned Tampa Bay. I know for a fact this is another team that people are watching really closely. With Dom Casciato coming from League One, that League One to championship move already kind of broke a soft glass ceiling, right? A League One coach getting a chance to coach at the championship level. And he said, I'm going to go with what I know. I'm getting a bunch of the best League One talent. I mean, Carson Interlong, if you haven't watched him, you should. He's one of the best that this league has to offer. You look at other guys who have gone that way. Evan Conway, former League One. You have Austin Pack, who's going to be in the same locker room as Jamali Waite. That's going to be a fascinating goalkeeping room to pay attention to. Nathan DeSantos is going on there. Luis Perez is going to be a guy who's going to be a big deal. Pedro Dolabella, Marco Micheletto. You have so many great players. Sebastian Cruz, Learman. These are more players that have kind of cut their teeth down at the League One level. And guess who saw that? Dom Casciato saw that as they're coming up, and he's giving them their chance. They have gone full in on having this League One talent who maybe wouldn't have gotten opportunities in the past. And if it works, championship teams are going to say, okay, we're going to give this a shot. We're going to go after more League One talent. If it doesn't work, you might see those floodgates just go ahead, dam it up. We won't even deal with it anymore. That League One experiment didn't work. Overall, there's a lot of transfers that kind of catch your eye. You mentioned Tunbridge. You also see Arthur Rogers going to the Miami FC. Jurgen Locadia is a flashy name, but his career's kind of fallen off. But if he can regain half of what he could be and half of what he was, he's one of the best players in the league. That's fascinating for me to see. Going through, and I'm just kind of looking at things as I kind of go along. Arturo Rodriguez is a big deal. Sacramento had a rumor that Jack Gurr was also being bought by Lexington. Apparently that was not completely factual, but something to kind of keep an eye on. But I don't think that's going to result in anything. Maldonado, not just that. You also see Christian Pirano, Christian Sordo, Akeem Ward. Those are amazing signings for San Antonio, who had a surprisingly good year, who I did not think very highly of them coming into the season, and they just continue to add. There's a lot that I am kind of just generally looking around, but there's players who are available right now who I am fascinated to see where they go. Cal Jennings is going to be the big one, but for the Miami FC, Bonifilio that was down there, I think that he's not going to get a whole lot of love, but there's going to be a team that's going to sign him, and they are going to be extremely happy with the results that they see.
What's the latest of the players that were part of the dispersal at North Carolina? Are they finding homes? I'm not really seeing a whole lot of North Carolina guys being mentioned anywhere.
Yes and no. So just like we have to remind people with these kind of things, deals are being done, deals are done, but because of registration, because of other things, they can't announce that it's done, right? Yeah. It's the reason why Tom Bogert had announced that Malloy was going to Lexington, and we knew for like a week, but Lexington couldn't say anything because registration wasn't done. Right. There's a lot of North Carolina players who are being looked at very closely, as they should. That was a good team. The one player, Alex Anderson, I have word on where he's going, but it was contingent on one player coming and another player going and all that kind of stuff. Wow. We'll see how that works out. But all I will say on the Alex side is that assuming nothing falls apart, the rich stay rich for him. So there's a lot of good players that you're going to see just kind of land around from that North Carolina side. The one that I think I'm interested to see which road he goes on is a Birmingham talent, which is Jaden Cervania.
Yeah.
Because he's someone who is fantastic at the League One level, was really good at the championship level, but never really felt like he could get his footing underneath him. if there's a team that's willing to give him 90s week in, week out, I think you could see him turn into that, not that like best tier of player in the USL, but someone who you're very happy with being in your squad. So I'm really interested to see where he kind of ends up.
Okay, since I went down the North Carolina road, franchise ins and outs. Out is North Carolina. Out is Loudoun, correct? They're going League Two. Is that correct?
No. Loudoun has started a league.
Started League Two. Got it. Okay.
Yeah, so they still exist. They are still around, technically coachless.
Yes.
Technically, but ignore the fact that Alan Marcina is their scouting director. That means nothing. That's a coincidence.
Yes. And Ryan Martin is now in Oakland and
correct,
taking over Roots. New coach officially in Pittsburgh, correct?
Yes. Rob Vincent has been officially announced, where that, I mean, I think most people saw that one coming, as it should have. No real word on officially what happened with Bob Lilly, but and while I do think the Pittsburgh fans deserve a little bit of clarification on it, that's someone who's an absolute legend for them.
Yeah.
I also think that, use your brain, you can probably figure out what happened. This is not a Ron Yan situation in FC Cincinnati where he got caught singing a song and said a word he wasn't supposed to.
Yeah.
It's Bob Lilly. Use your imagination. You don't have to think that hard.
Yeah.
You can also say that the team played freer. They played more lively. They were the best they have looked in a long, long time. The moment he wasn't there anymore, Rob Vincent is going to be a great coach for them. Now, I am going to be fascinated how Pittsburgh handles this, though, because are they going to continue acting like the Tampa Bay Rays, where they say we can spend less than you and get better results than you because we're just so much smarter than you? Bob Lilly can make your coal into diamonds. Okay. Or are they going to open up the pocketbook and say, hey, maybe Rob Vincent isn't the same talent evaluator that Lilly is? Maybe he doesn't see those diamonds in the rough. Maybe he can, but maybe they don't know that. They can't guarantee that. Let's open up the pocketbooks and give him some real deal talent. We'll see.
Robbie Mertz also signing a 2-year deal recently, and we are tracking Robbie down for an appearance here on the morning show. What's the latest in Birmingham? You only won 5 out of 30 last year for Legion. 12 losses, 12 draws, 5 wins. What's the latest?
The biggest one, there's one goalkeeper in Birmingham, and it is not who you think it is. That will be Trevor McMullen right now, as they announce that that Fernando Delgado is not going to be returning to the club, likely just looking for chances elsewhere. Matt Van Oekel not officially announced to be coming back yet, which he's going to be around in some capacity. He either as a coach or just living in Birmingham.
Yeah.
So it's not like that's the last you see him in VO, but definitely looks like the changing of a guard. You see Jake Roof disappear from the club, Enzo Martinez leaving from the club. Moses Mensah makes way down to South Georgia Tormenta, where he rejoins Mark McKeever, where McKeever. So Mensah is one of 2 people who kind of followed McKeever around, where Mensah followed him from Des Moines down to One Knox, and then he goes to Birmingham. Mensah does, and then he joins him again in South Georgia Tormenta. The only person who's probably been around him more is Jordan Bell, who's been with him for every step of the way. Jordan Bell just might be Mark McKeever's son. I don't know. I can't prove it, but I am going from Mississippi Bria to Des Moines Menace to One Knox, then going down to Tormenta on his own. Baby Bird finally gets to spread his wings, and Mark McKeever says, maybe if I become the head coach, we'll see. But it's interesting what South Georgia Tormenta is doing. But Legion is getting a decent little overhaul, and it's been not a quiet secret that the locker room had just kind of gone stale in Birmingham. So if Mark Briggs feels like he found the root of the issues, then maybe it's an addition by subtraction situation where maybe the talent that's being brought in, if any talent is being brought in, there is a player being brought in, but still not to the level of, Lexington, Tampa Bay, teams like that. If it's not maybe the level of talent is not shocking people, but the core is good enough that if the locker room is also good, I think that Legion fans can expect a significant bounce.
Teams that are being added in this year, and correct me once again if I mess any of this up, it's just Brooklyn and Jacksonville that are coming in this season, correct?
Yes, that's all this season.
Championship side. Atletico Dallas is making a lot of inroads with all of their gear. They're not coming in yet. Milwaukee, Reno, Santa Barbara pushed themselves back a year, OKC, and Iowa. Then to League One,
Yep.
and you look at what Coach Fuller was able to do in Knoxville and get a championship. Then you look at the rest of the league. You mentioned Tormenta with a lot of stuff going on. The irony alert with McKeever and Knoxville and Tormenta here. What are the early returns for you that you've seen out of League One so far in the offseason?
Knoxville, I'm concerned about Knoxville. I got to be honest with you.
Huh.
Maybe they feel like they're the smartest people in the room.
Okay.
But they let go what feels like most of their starters. I mean, Sean Lewis, Angelo Kelly Rosales, they got Ogley heading out. Tequila makes his way over to Union Omaha, who Tequila was in conversations of being the best number 10 in the league for me. He was right behind Luis Heel, which is big props to him.
Yeah.
That mentioned Ogley. I think Mark Doyle, I think went down to Tormenta. Stuart Ritchie's getting calls. Callum Johnson. These are great players. And yes, they have a good core behind them. Goaling is solid. Rosamilia has been good. Jordan Skelton is the defender of the year. But other than that, it's a lot of not question marks, but they're losing a lot of bona fide players. And it's not like they're getting moves up to the championship and that's when they let them go.
Yeah.
I mean, Sean Lewis is in Statesboro,
yeah.
right? Mm-hmm. Tequila's gone to Union Omaha. It's not that they got outbid. They didn't offer.
Huh.
So I'm concerned, not saying that One Knox is going to fold and they're cheapening out, but I do think that they think they're just kind of smarter than everybody else and they think they can just develop the talent and say, we can just do it again with lesser guys. I don't think so. I don't think it's that easy. I'm a little concerned on that front. And when I'm looking at Naples, I'm liking the early returns, but who they lose is big.
Yeah.
Serrano is an interesting one. Perpa is a big one. You see Enderlong, who goes on a transfer. That's a huge loss. Breck Evans, Chris Heckenberg. Those are big losses. Jake Dingler, big losses. Yeah. Interested to see how they kind of fix those holes, especially they have in the spine. Taylor Gray's a good start over on the wings, but I'm really interested to see how they rebuild the spine of that team.
Yeah, and you're having a banner year of introductions in League One. We've been following AC Boise, and we got the chance to kind of get the curtain pulled back about how they got their kit design all figured out. We caught up with the coach and the staff at AC Boise. Looking forward to that. And you've got that natural rivalry in the Pacific Northwest that's instantaneously developed. You're adding in Corpus Christi. Greenville has both a technical, a GM and a head coaching change for the Triumph coming in as they're getting ready to go into their new barn. Cosmos, who are not in New York, but playing in New Jersey, I believe, that they're coming online this season. You mentioned Naples, Fort Wayne coming online. It's the second season of Portland Hearts of Pine. Can P-Hop regenerate what they did in season number 1? I think that's the question there. Sarasota comes online. And I believe that's the first match for Boise, if I'm not mistaken, is the road game in Sarasota on March the 7th. And then you look at, a team like Westchester, who is at the bottom of the table. What are they doing in year number 2? Are they just slow and steady wins the race? I mean, right now you're looking at, if my math is right, it's what? It's an 18-team League One, which is the most they've ever had. That's a lot of teams coming online.
It is. Fort Wayne and Corpus Christi are interesting to me. Same thing with Sarasota. as well. 3 teams who cut their teeth at the League Two level.
Yeah.
So while you're going, Sarasota's signing players and they're signing really, really good players, but Corpus Christi and Fort Wayne haven't officially signed anybody yet, but they have a pool that they can already pull from anyway. Great players that they can just kind of pull up from their League Two team who are kind of on the cusp anyway. They can kind of give them a shot. So their roster fill is going to be a little bit easier. AC Boise, they have Nate Miller. I don't know what you want me to say. I trust anything that he does. If you tell me Nate Miller's in charge, sure, man. You could run me out there, and I feel like I could get you a point or two. That's how much I believe in Nate Miller, not in myself. But I'm interested to see how these roster construction go. The not in New York Cosmos, they're bringing in players. They're bringing in players that I like, but how many of them are still with working legs, right? Sebastian Winzati was kind of the big one. Like, look at this. Look at who he signed. How much does he have left in him? You look at someone like Ajmir Spengler. He was good for Texoma. He was a shining star in Texoma. How low is that bar?
Yeah.
I'm interested. They're bringing in a lot of local talent, which I do like. So maybe this is talent that I just don't really know about because I got to be honest with you. I'm not out there scouting college kids. I don't have time.
Come on.
So I know I don't have the love of the game, but I'm interested to see how that kind of works and how they're going to work within that. I'm very fascinated, but we see a lot of teams who haven't really made moves yet, but I'm not really sure if that's going to be because they have a pool they're ready to announce, but they can't announce for various reasons, or if they're waiting to see what happens through the first dominoes that fall. Are they waiting to shift through what's going on here and say, okay, what's kind of left? Oop, here's a gym, here's a gym, here's a gym. Why go for what's on top when you can make a competitive team who can still make the playoffs and not spend as much money and not have to deal with the competitive, this team's offering me this team's offering me this team's offering me this. I don't know.
Sarasota, just to give folks an idea, signing Chandler O'Dwyer for the midfield, Anderson Rosa for the back line, Andres Rodriguez for the midfield. Callum Stretch was an interesting one on defense.
Great one
that they picked up there for Sarasota as well. When you look back at 25, was there something, I guess, let's take it this way. Biggest surprise, biggest disappointment, and you can take it league at a time or you can blend championship and League One together. Was there a biggest surprise and a biggest disappointment for you in the USL last year?
The biggest surprise for me was Westchester. We were just so certain that they were going to be great.
Yeah.
We looked at the team and we said too good to fail. We thought they were the third best team in League One before the season started. Wow. And their offense was awesome. Their attacking wingbacks were amazing. Unfortunately, those attacking wingbacks didn't do the defensive part of the back. Get back there, please, for the love of God, defend. Towards the end of the year, they started doing that, but it was a little too late.
Yeah.
That was a really big shock for me. I was very surprised that they kind of fell the way that they did with the talent that they brought in. I'm hoping that this year, with a new coaching staff, that they're going to be able to shake some things out. Greenville was also a massive surprise to me. I love what they had on paper. I really like the coaching staff, but nothing just ever seemed to truly click, and I don't really know why. Hopefully that'll get going. On the championship side, I feel like there was not a ton of surprises for me other than Orange County, who I thought was the best team in the West last year. And they finally – the matches where they were right, they were the best team in the West, but they were rarely right. So that was a surprise for me, but I like the teams that they brought back. The biggest – I'm just trying to think it through anybody else that really shocked me. Mm-hmm. Either way, the biggest surprises, biggest disappointments, not really. I feel like for the most part, Lexington kind of did their thing last year where they brought in 75 players or something, and they didn't make the playoffs. But also Lexington kind of built that reputation already.
Mhm.
So it didn't shock you. You just kind of laughed. I don't know. I'm not going to say it was chalk. I mean, no one would have said FC Tulsa versus Pittsburgh Riverhounds in the USL final was chalk. No, that's not not the case. But it didn't shock me that they were in the playoffs. It just shocked me of where they finished. All the players kind of shifted out where you thought they would be, where all the teams did.
Looking, and you mentioned Westchester, and I'm staring at this roster as they have it posted. Forwards, J.C. Obregon, Prince Saidi, Johnny Bolaños at forward. You've got folks like Connor McGlynn and Joel Johnson in the midfield. Defense, Kamar Lawrence, Noah Powder, Andrew Jean-Baptiste, and Josh Drack. I mean, that's some names that you can play with there.
McGlynn was great when he was right. The Noah, Sammy Powder were awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Stephen Payne, someone who I have close to my heart, Birmingham native. Shout out to my guy.
There you go.
But I mean, you like what you see. One Obregon wins Golden Boot, second player to finish last in their respective league and win Golden Boots. The other one was, he was at Orange County. He won it a few years ago. Milan.
Yeah, Milan
Olowski. So okay. He's the only other one. So I don't know. You look at the attacking talent and you make yourself believe, but we did this last year. And so they're officially on my, I won't believe in you until you give me a reason.
So they're Missouri to you, basically.
They're a little bit of Missouri, yeah.
They're show me. I get it. What is the latest with at the USL show? Where are you guys right now, and what plans are you plotting for 26?
Well, we're kind of plotting plans for tomorrow, which is the 31st, also known as CBA Deadline Day.
Yes.
So while everybody else is waiting for the ball to drop on the new year, we are going to have a show, and we're going to see if anything happens. We're going to go live and talk about the ramifications of what the CBA running out could mean, what it doesn't mean, what all these things mean for everything. Because are we going to see an ECHL moment of the owners bend the knees to the players when they realized the pocketbook was hurt, or will the players have to concede because the owners don't have to deal with the match for another 3 months? I don't know. And I'm really fascinated to see how it works out. If someone scabs, if someone breaks through the lockout, how will they be treated by their teammates? I don't know. Will contracts that have already been signed but not announced, will they be put on hold? Will they be voided? I don't know. Yeah. And so we're going to talk about all that tomorrow night. It's going to be at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we're not going to go live until deadline time. Maybe we will. I don't think we will, but we could. But we're going to try to break it all down of what the lockout actually means.
Okay. And that's why we like to have you up to break everything down for us and be our tour guide when it comes to everything going on in the USL, when it comes to Championship, League One, and etc. As always, my friend, great to see you. Thanks for dropping by to lead us into CBA Day for those who celebrate, or for those who may not celebrate, depending on what the outcome is going to be. You know that we'll be knocking on your door soon, especially if something happens that we need to talk about after CBA Day. So be safe. Have a great holiday coming up. Hopefully we won't have to talk to you again Friday after CBA Day when we're into 26. We'll catch up with you soon, my friend. Great to see you.
Good to see you as well.
Yeah, it might help if you unmute your microphone. There you go. Kaylor Hodges, is always great to catch up with him and find out what's going on. Lots going on in USL Championship and USL League One. So USL at the USL show at Kaylor Hodges. And that's the breakdown of the latest there. And there's a lot of the latest there. Speaking of a lot of the latest, a couple of signings. We're tracking Connecticut United as they're coming online in MLS Next Pro. They've signed Kawa Paixão, who comes to Connecticut after spells in Brazil and Ukraine. That was on the rumor mill for a bit. Speaking of Lexington has inked Philadelphia Union keeper Oliver Semla to a multi-year deal, pending league and federation approval. Now entering his fourth year. USL Championship, Philadelphia Union, North Carolina FC, Lou City. Posted a 68% save percentage in his career, 36.2% clean sheet percentage across all comps. You get a quote from Semla from Lex SC. 17 appearances in MLS play in 24, 49 saves, and 5 in his lone CONCACAF Champions Cup appearance. After not appearing for the Union in 25, loaned out to North Carolina FC. 13 goals, 11 appearances for North Carolina, making 26 stops. Initially drafted 41st overall in the 22 draft out of Marshall. Inked his first professional contract with Lou City. So everything's going with like Lou City and Lexington here. So Semla joins Brooks Thompson, Logan Ketterer as the keepers named to Lex's USL Championship roster in 26. And to the point that I was making with Kaylor, here's the roster right now for Lex going into the 26 season. Ketterer, Semla, and Brooks Thompson. Defenders, and this is just some of the names. Arturo Ordonez on defense. Midfielders, Michael Adedikan, Latif Blessing. Latif Blessing is in Lexington. Luis Felipe, Nick Firmino is still there. Aaron Malloy is there in the midfield and forwards. Philip Goodrum, Brodilio Rodriguez, Malik Henry Scott, and Milo Yosef. So that's what Lex is bringing to the table, and that came out as of 45 minutes ago. So Oliver Semla is now added to the stacks in Lexington as they continue to just build a roster upon builds coming up in 2026. A couple of other quick notes from Alex Crook and Ben Jacobs. Nathan Ake snubbed to move to West Ham and a snub to Nuno. Well, I wouldn't want to go to West Ham at this point right now. And Al Hilal have not given up on persuading Ruben Neves to stay. They've made an improved 2-year contract offer. He's yet to respond. Manchester United made an informal call, but haven't advanced anything so far. Juve and Atletico de Madrid are interested. AFCON, that is coming up in just a little bit. And we'll get you into your juice boxes and your notes for AFCON coming up today. It is Tanzania and Tunisia and Uganda and Nigeria. Tunisia favored at a -179, Nigeria at a -118. 2 o'clock, Benin is a +1,000 going up against Senegal, who's a -357. DR Congo is a -455 going up against Botswana, who does not have a point in their first 2. Botswana is a +1360. Now, with the signing of Thomas Jakob, it is time to catch up with Jason, who is parachuting in to let us know what he's found out. So what have you, found out, sir, about the new pickup for Atlanta United?
Well, you can read all about it at soccerdownhere.net. First off, he fits the profile of the kind of signings that we've seen Tata Martino make during his time here in Atlanta the first time around. He's a young player with a lot of upside. I think what jumps out to me is kind of his rapid rise after kind of traditional long-term development. He started at a neighborhood club in Argentina, then made his way to a slightly bigger one in Atletico Rafaela. Then he's spotted by Newell's Old Boys, who scout that region really well. He ends up making the move over to Newell's and then gets his opportunity. He's a very versatile player. You know, that's going to be the big question for me coming into preseason is what does Atlanta United look like under Tata Martino version 2.0? And I think when you sign a guy like Thomas Jakob, you get a player who can play right back, who can play center back, who can play center back in a 3, and who both with Newell's and with Necaxa played as a defensive midfielder. So, you know, I made the comparison in the feature about Franco Escobar, who there's definite similarities with him. He came to Atlanta roughly the same time in his career. He came straight from Newell's. He didn't make the stopover in Liga MX for half a season like Jakob did. But what Jakob gives you that's different is that ability in the middle, in the midfield. And when you look at some of the early scouting reports on him going back to when he was breaking in at Newell's, I didn't see the midfield portion jumping out to me. You know, he was described as a great tackler, great defender, read the game well, but on the ball, that was an area that needed to improve. That was something that, you know, maybe at a younger age, he took too many risky passes, for example, as opposed to simply keeping possession in moments. But he's been able to make that transition. And the story that I highlighted in the article that that really stood out the most to me is, look at 2025 for Tomas Jakob. He was at Newell's in the Apertura in Argentina in the first half of the year. He really broke through. And again, kind of moving into a midfield role because it's what the club needed. He had a match against Boca Juniors where he stood out. He had a fractured finger on his hand. He played. They ended up giving him a break in the Copa Argentina the next week just to slow him down because he wanted to keep playing because he's that kind of guy. And after the match against Boca, his manager, Cristian Fabiani, said, the most important thing is that he listens. No matter the position, he listens and obeys. A player who listens plays for me. You can be less talented than the player next to you. Again, if you listen. And that, I think, says a lot. And that's the kind of values that Tata Martino is going to be looking for. The toughness, the ability to adapt, the flexibility, and just the fact that he went from that breaking out. Newell's needs to bring in money because Newell's always needs to bring in money. They sell him to Necaxa for a reported $2.8 million and retained a stake. I think it was about 80% of his pass. Now the reports out of Mexico are the move to Atlanta is in the $5 million range.
Yep.
Now Newell's will get some of that, a good bit. That'll be great for them. Necaxa will get a great return on 6 months. That shows you his rise, which is really going fast up the ladder. So it's a move that I want to see how he's used. I don't know if he's going to be a pure right back. I don't know if you're going to see a lot of 3/5 in the back, as we did with Tata Martino in the playoffs in 2018. We saw more of a 4-3-3 over the entirety of his run. But having somebody who gives you that flexibility to shift in-game, to play different positions without having to go add another player to the roster, and a U22 who's really cap-friendly and roster-friendly, feels like a no-brainer kind of move.
We didn't get the chance to catch up with you about the Lucas Hoyos move when that came down the pike. What has study hall been like for you once he was brought in? What have you been able to see and gather in your early information session?
He's a veteran. He's trusted. He's what you need in the situation that you're in with Atlanta United, where you have 3 very promising goalkeepers in varying stages of development. In James Donaldson as the youngest, in Jonathan Ransom as the second, the middle child, and Jaden Hibbert as the older brother of those 3. And Hibbert, we've seen at the first team, limited, but we've seen him. He's very good. He's still a work in progress, as any young player is. Do you want to go into a season where there are expectations to compete? Do you want to go into that with Hibbert, who is going to have growing pains, as the number 1 with no question? I don't think you do. So you go get somebody like Hoyos who can give you stability, can help your young goalkeepers in that goalkeeper room, and that was probably part of the selling point to bring him in. And if he needs to play a good bit, he can play a good bit. You've also got the Lamar Hunt U.S. Open Cup that you're going to be playing in, so you're going to need some extra players. You're going to play a lot of games in a short period of time. Goalkeeper is different, but that second half of the season is going to be a lot of travel, a lot of games in the midweek. You're going to need a deep squad, and goalkeeper is a position that you needed depth in. It makes sense.
How much time do we have before we get to training camp?
I believe 2 weeks-ish. I think they might report a little bit before they actually hit the field. I'm not quite sure of the timeline of everything. I do believe, I don't think it's 100% confirmed, but I think it's mostly confirmed that Dukes and Bell, 92.9 The Game, are going to be at training camp in the first week. A lot of players will be on the air, a lot of conversations. Of course, I'll be there and talking with Mike and Carl and getting you ready for the season before the team then goes to Florida. And then comes back and then goes to Texas, it looks like, and then comes back and gets ready for the season coming up in late February.
Okay, another couple of topics on the table. How long do we have you?
5 minutes or so.
Okay, we'll get you to the topic. So let's go AFCON, because I talked juice boxes a little bit coming into today. And so right now you've got the favorites or prohibitive favorites for the most part going into the match day. Once again, it is match day 3. It is matches being played simultaneously. We've got 2 of them coming up in 5 minutes, and then 2 of them coming up at 2 o'clock. And it is looking at Tunisia and Tanzania at 11, Nigeria and Uganda at 11, 2 o'clock Senegal and Benin, DR Congo and Botswana. Obviously, the 2 o'clockers, unless something shocking happens, it's Senegal and DR Congo that you're looking at as prohibitive favorites, and you got Nigeria, Tunisia as favorites coming up at 11 o'clock.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like a day for the favorites. We'll see if any of the underdogs can cause a stir. Tanzania has a chance to jump. I think the element of it that is really interesting when you look at this, one, Benin should get through with 3 points as a third place. You have 2 teams that finished yesterday on 2 points in third place. So that opens the door for anybody who gets to 3, with 4 teams going through from the third place teams into the knockout rounds. If you get to 3, you're pretty much going to get there. So Benin's in a good spot. Tanzania needs to get to that. I don't think 2, if they lose to Tunisia, then you're getting into goal difference. They'd fall behind Angola in that fact if they lost. So they need to go for it. That could create some fun in the 11 o'clocks. That's the game that is the most interesting to me. On the other side, Senegal has not quite been as good as I expected. DR Congo has been better than I expected. I think it falls in a really nice way that DR Congo can win the group, because I could see Senegal and Benin being a draw. I could see them canceling each other out. And then looking ahead to tomorrow, Cameroon has been a team that needs to make a bigger jump. I mean, I feel like when you look at Cameroon and Nigeria, 2 teams that didn't qualify for the World Cup, that I thought that put more pressure on them coming into this tournament, because they had to get something out of 2025 since they missed out on the World Cup. Nigeria has risen to that challenge. Cameroon has been good. I thought their draw with Cote d'Ivoire was good. I thought they looked good. They didn't get the win. They need to win, and they need to keep putting that pressure on, because the knockout rounds, when you start looking ahead, some of the matchups are going to be very interesting, with a team like Senegal that could fall into a second place spot, with South Africa in a second place spot that's going to be dangerous. Mali hasn't really gotten it together, but they have the talent to be a difficult second place team. If Cameroon's a second place team, or Cote d'Ivoire, those are very good second place teams that create some drama in the bracket.
Okay, so I haven't played it yet, but I probably will once I let you go. When I mentioned El Kabi and bicycle kicks,
It's just ridiculous. I mean, it's hard to have one bicycle kick in your highlight reel for your career. Pelé had multiple, and you didn't have a whole lot of highlight reels back then, but he had multiple, and it's like, wow, he's the master of this. El Kabi's got 3 unbelievable bicycle kicks in the last half of a year. He's got 2 in this tournament. It's insane. And to do it the way that he is getting these, it's not the traditional way with a cross from the side and he's timing it and going up and hitting it. He's falling back, which to me makes it even more difficult, because the ball is not quite directly going over your head, but close to it. So the timing feels like it's even more challenging to get it. And he's done it twice in this tournament. I mean, put those aside, he's had a great tournament in total. And this is a player who's played in a lot of different spots. He's north of 30, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
A player who is breaking out. And when you start to look at what the legacy of this tournament is, I think it could be some of those players who, we know the stars and we know some of the young up and coming players that get highlighted in AFCONs previously and get highlighted out of the continent. It's the guys like him. It's players who are in either the, just after the prime of their career, or at the back end of the prime, or in the prime of their career, who haven't had those opportunities to be in big spots, who are showing in this tournament that they have the level to be there. So I'm curious if you get into January, a team that needs a striker says, well, he's hot right now. let's go get him. Let's go spend the money. I think that could be the real legacy of this tournament, is some players maybe unexpectedly getting nice moves on the backside of the tournament.
And I know that you're keeping a list of those too, for just for a list of, I want to see this guy wearing 5 stripes. Right, Olympiacos right now is in the driver's seat with 32-year-old Ayoub El Kaabi. So that is
and Olympiacos will sell if the money's right. They will absolutely sell. And he's one of those guys that, could he go to Spain and do well in like a mid-table team trying to get into a European spot? Absolutely. Could he go to England and do well? Absolutely, he could. Like, there's a lot of different spots that he could go and thrive. And when you have a player with his experience and his form, you'll cut a big check and you'll go get him. Like, I would be watching to see where he ends up at the end of the January window.
All right, it's 11 o'clock. You turn into a pumpkin. Good to see you, my friend. Thanks for crashing.
Yep. Adios.
All right, there goes Jason. So Jason gives the update on Thomas Jakob, and let's everything break down there. So good AFCON update with Jason. Good update on Jakob for us here on the morning show. Now let's get you into what you can watch, where to watch it, and how to watch it. And that's always brought to us by our friends at Fanatis, fntz.co/soccer down here. And when you become a subscriber at Fanatis, you get to add a bunch of leagues that you didn't have the chance to watch previously. With all the BNs, you're looking at France, you're looking at Poland they've added this year, and you're looking at a lot of stuff in South America, Libertadores and Sudamericana, and let's see, I think Liga 1 Max Pro is a part of it as well. TVV is there, CDO is there, Teisei is there. So let me see what is currently going on Fanatis, just to give you an idea as to what you would be watching when we are done. Actually, you'd be watching AFCON first and foremost, either on BN or BN Espanol. So you have right now, you've got pregame for both of those matches. Actually, they're a minute and a half in. So they're a minute and a half in. All the BNs, Teisei, Gold TV, CDO, CDO2, and TVV. So that is currently what is going on. The channels that you have that are available to you, once again, CDO, CDO2, TVV, that's a part of it. And you get we've seen Tigo Sports drift in. We've seen CATV drift in. And it's been a bunch of different places where you can get Fanatis. And once again, it's fntz.co/soccer down here. Helps them out, helps us out, helps you out when it comes to all of the games that are currently going on in and around the universe. All right, so now that we know that is going on, what else is going on today? Well, obviously, you've got all those matches that we talked about in the Premier League, and that's a big part of it too. So BN and Espanol, we talked about that. Motherwell and Celtic is at 3 o'clock on CBS Sports Network. The league we neither condone, endorse, nor promote is on FS2. NBCSN has Arsenal and Villa. USA has Chelsea and Bournemouth. BN Espanol simulcasting. Fox Deportes simulcasting. Universo simulcasting Chelsea and Bournemouth. Big Fox ONE is simulcasting. NBCSports.com has Chelsea and Bournemouth. Paramount Plus has Motherwell and Celtic. Peacock has the 5 matches that are going on. Has 5 of the matches going on. 3 of them at 2:30. 2 of them at 3:15. And Wednesday's ESPN Plus A-League happened very, very early this morning. So that is where we are. So that is what to watch, where to watch it, and how to watch it for today. Also, give you a John Texter update, and it's kind of an update within an update. Yesterday, and we talked about it on Nightside, and from our friends at Globo, right now, John Texter is formalizing an offer to Eagle to repurchase Botafogo's Sociedad Anónima Deportiva, the LLC of Botafogo. And so here is the latest there. Now this is from John Peter Fragoso at Globo. Now, he submitted a formal proposal to repurchase Botafogo's LLC, which is managed by Eagle, which he can't currently touch. And so he's the largest shareholder, but he's not involved in any of the decision-making. So what he wants to do is come up and he wants to buy Botafogo away from Eagle so he can get back into the decision-making process. So now you're looking at this is once again from Globo. The move comes amidst financial difficulties faced by operation and depends on the approval of creditors and the board of directors who have recently returned from recess. Texters has confirmed the existence of the proposal, stated it's fully funded, said he didn't want to go into further details about the negotiation. Also stated he's already invested several $1 million in quotation marks in the club's recent weeks and will continue to finance the operation while awaiting formal approvals. According to Texter, and this is once again from Globo, finalizing the agreement would stabilize the LLC's cash flow and eliminate sporting and administrative risks. I'm going to pause that sentence right there. However, those involved in the process are treating the matter cautiously until there's definitive confirmation of the source of the funds and formal statements from the creditors. And so that came out. Combination of yesterday and today. And so that is what you're looking at from Globo when it comes to what is John Texter's latest. So we caught up with some of our sources, and it appears that he is trying to gain he's trying to get some funds put together rather quickly so he can pull this off, basically, is what we were told. So right now, looking for something in the neighborhood of 9 figures. And so what they are trying to do is see if they can get more funds brought in from the outside, see if they can in turn retire some of the outstanding notes that are held on Eagle and its percentages. And we'll go over that in a second. And so the money that they are seeking would be for operating capital for Eagle. And then you are repurchasing some notes that are held currently that are attached to Eagle, and you would pay that off. And so that's kind of what you're staring at with these particular notes if the money is invested and put in. So that would be you're looking at a reworking of the current debt structure in Eagle and with Texter, if I'm interpreting this correctly. So looking for funds to inject to help out Eagle football and continue to have them operate as normal, and then try and retire some of the notes that are held currently within the structure of Eagle. And I know that this is a lot of moving paper, and it's a lot of trying to figure out, okay, where does this paper go? Where does this paper go? So that is what you're looking at the moment involving Eagle. And so now you are looking at the early percentages, and we'll go back a couple of months just to give you an idea as to what it all resembles. So Eagle Football Holdings, the parent company, back in August was owned 65% by John Texter, just under 35% by others, totaling a group of Iconic Sports, Elmwood Partners, and Michelle Kang. And also Aries Management across 3 tranches has provided approximately $500 million in debt financing for Eagle Football Holdings, considering at one point they were $1.2 billion in the hole. Eagle Football Holdings Club's Bidco, and this is the acquisition vehicle, is mostly Olympique Lyonnais, Botafogo, and RWD in Brussels. Media reports suggest that Aries forced Texter to sell his 43% stake in Crystal Palace, of which was sold to Woody Johnson for £190 million back in July. Aries got a majority of the proceeds from that sale. Eagle, $1.2 billion in the hole, including total debt, almost $500 million at the point in August owed to Aries, which includes $159 million at a 19.4% interest rate and $75 million to Iconic at 11% annual. And remember that Texter and Iconic had that disagreement where it got so bad that Iconic was suing Texter from England, and Texter was countersuing Iconic from Florida. I think those are the directions. One of the parties was in Florida, one of the parties was in England. I think it was Texter that was countersuing from Florida. So that's the Bidco vehicle. And then you have potential seizure of stadium assets. The Groupama Stadium worth $346 million as collateral if Aries insisted on any kind of immediate payback. Botafogo is 90% Eagle with the LLC and 10% the Botafogo Social Club, but they own 100% of the LLC shares structure. And like I said, I know this is a boatload. This is a boatload of like moving chairs and paper and everything. So just kind of bear with me here. July 31st had a court order of the precautionary seizure of the Bidco shares in Botafogo of the LLC. Court action was initiated against Texter by Botafogo's own legal team to protect the club from financial exploitation. It's $27.2 million in debt owed by Eagle to Botafogo. So, not knowing what the current number is, it would be taking the money that is requested right now or being sought by Texter who claims he has it. I don't know where that money goes. Does that money go to pay off the debt that is owed by Eagle to Botafogo and you still have money left over? Or is it just, once again, we'll slide the debt over here and this is stuff to get you through the day? Eagle's 90% stake in the Botafogo SAF was frozen back in July 31st. Eagle can't sell, transfer, or negotiate the Botafogo shares until the debt is settled. So that is taking the insight on this, my guess is that as we read down this list from the court order in July, Texter will be taking that money that he says he has in hand, and I'm guessing he's going to pay off the debt that is currently there that has created a bit of an issue when it comes to all of the money that is floating around right now. So you'd have that money taking care of the debt so Botafogo could have its transfer embargo removed, and you can get back into making player transfers. So it also prevents a hostile takeover with Aries or other creditors not accessing Botafogo as collateral. Back in 23, a regional labor court previously froze Botafogo's assets over 10 million real in unpaid debts. And this was where the discussion was about John Texter and his buddy Evangelinas Marinakis getting together, and that was where those conversations started. And remember, Marinakis and his players and that whole conversation that we got into where Texter said that you were given discounts on some and it was evening out on others, and that didn't really seem to go well on the Botafogo podcast that he was a guest of, and claimed that his statements were misshapen and taken out of context. So Texter was looking for creating the new holding company. And what this would do is that would end up helping out this new grouping to acquire Botafogo. And so this was also where it was thought that Marinakis was helping out Texter with backing at the time. And like I said, this is back in August. And I don't know if this is the same storyline or if this is Texter operating independently or if this is the same storyline being revisited that we talked about back in August. If this is Marinakis and Texter and this sought number of funds, to help get Botafogo and RWD in Brussels. And so remember once again that Marinakis wanted to buy Vasco da Gama and Sao Paulo in the past. Is this that window reopening? Back to Iconic. $75 million equity investment in Eagle to support the acquisition of Lyon back in December 22. Broader consortium with Iconic negotiated a put option allowing them to force Textor to buy back the stake plus 11% interest if the SPAC merger failed, and that's where those two lawsuits, the lawsuit and the countersuit, came into play from earlier this year. Back in July, and so it was. Okay, so I did have that right. July, Iconic sues Textor in London. They want the $75 million plus interest. Textor countersues, alleging securities fraud and claiming Iconic knew the SPAC would fail because of one of the members' alleged ties to sanctioned Russian individuals. Iconic was formed back in 21. Jamie Dinan, founder of the York Hedge Fund and owner of the Bucks. Alexander Canaster, founder of Pamplona, who's the owner of Pisa. Edward Eisler, Eisler Capital, multi-strategy hedge fund headquartered in London. And Tifosi Capital, an advisory, CEO Fausto Zeneton, based in London. He was part of the Milan takeover by Oaktree, appointed to the Inter Milan board of directors back in June of 24. And then Ares Management's investment in Inter Miami was facilitated by Tifosi. And this is why we've had our friend Jason Stevens here on Tuesdays traditionally to make sure that we understood where all of these moving parts were. So we get to catch up with Jason. Hopefully we'll catch back up with him. He's attending to some family matters right now, but that's where all of this is heading. So Tifosi is engaged in Venezia, Norwich, QPR, Peterborough, and Stevenage. And Elmwood is also a part of this. They're a minority investor in Eagle with links through John Textor and his technological companies. And a lot of folks are asking, why is it that folks continue to be with John Textor? And it is that last part. That last part of it where it is Textor and his other business interests continue to have these folks dive back in because they're looking at football as an element of the larger discussion with John Textor. So they look at all of the other companies that he's attached to, like Fubo TV. They look at the technology part of the Textor portfolio, and that's why they're still a part of those discussions. And the sports part just seems to be a part of that Venn diagram. So that's what you're, Dave, that's what we're here for, David. So that is the update on John Textor. So that is kind of that's kind of where we are with that. So we'll keep an eye out on Textor and the chasing of the funds and him focusing on other things other than paying Atlanta United. And to kind of put a bow on that, if I am interpreting this correctly, then because of the current lawsuit involving Atlanta United and the judgment from FIFA in Atlanta United's behalf and the money that is owed by Textor, $3 million at 3%, $18 million at 3%, plus a sell-on for Thiago Almada. Because it is still under appeal, that is why John Textor is not being moved emotionally or financially to pay Atlanta United what he owes them. Because as long as it is still in the courts, then he is of no compunction. And like I said, I'm trying to follow this logically. As long as there is still avenues, legal avenues that he can pursue, there is no compunction on his part to sit there and pay off the judgment that has been put against him and put against him more than once. I don't know where you go from the current status. I don't know. The World Court in The Hague, I have no idea. because you've gone through international and you've gone through athletic options. Do you go through truly basic court level stuff now? Do you go just on the legal side of things and not the athletic courts? I don't know what is left for him in these 2 judgments against him and then the sell-on fee for Thiago Almada. Like I said, this is pushing $30 million. Atlanta United has been awarded a judgment more than once. But because John Textor legally can continue to kick the can down the road, that's what he's doing. And so he's focusing with kicking the can down the road legally. The winners really are the lawyers. So what is John Textor doing now? He's focusing on other things. He's focusing on the sporting aspect of it, trying to figure out, okay, what can I do to get Botafogo back under my own umbrella? And it looks like that's where this is with the SAF or the LLC, is that he's trying to get funds, which he says he has, to have Botafogo's LLC back under his control. So it would have to be like a separate holdco, bidco, or what have you, where Eagle, he's still a majority of Eagle at 65.4%. But with Eagle, he's not allowed to touch Botafogo. With this new entity where he's trying to just gain the LLC, it would be like, well, one version of me is over here with Eagle. This version of me, I don't know if you call it Eagle 2.0 or whatever, but this new version of me where I'm trying to purchase the Botafogo LLC or the SAF away from its current situation. I'm over here on this side, even though I own Eagle on this side, or I have a controlling interest in Eagle on one side. So I think that's where we are here, if I'm interpreting it correctly. And for another time, I will reach out to him on Instagram and see if he's checking his messages and see if he wants to come on the show to break everything down and find out what he has to say about all of these things. So that's where we are with John Textor. And that's kind of, like I said, I know it's convoluted, but in our conversations that we get to have with Jason Stevens about MCOs and about ownership and about individuals like this, it's a better way to understand what's going on. But with that timeline dating back to July that we've kind of brought forward a little bit, just to give everybody the background on it, that's kind of where we are. So keep an eye on this. This would be where you're kind of keeping an eye out on Brazilian newspapers. And like I said, we check with our sources and see what's up with what the money is and all this kind of stuff and where it can be processed and where it goes from here. So that's your John Textor update for today. Is that he thinks he's got the money. He's fairly confident he's got the money where he can take over Botafogo's SAF, the LLC, and remove the transfer embargo. Hey, look, I can repay this debt. I can get this debt taken care of. That means we get back into the transfer game and we can continue to bring in players. So I think that's where we're heading if I'm reading everything correctly with the money that he is seeking, the money he says he has, and where it can be applied. So that's kind of where we are. The Atlanta United thing is off to the side. It's in the courts, and as long as it's in the courts, he doesn't have to play with it. He's like, I don't have to do anything about it. It's over here. Botafogo, however, as an entity, hey, we won trophies. People like me. And so we'll work on Botafogo for a second. So that's where this new amount of funding is trying to go in that direction. So we'll see. So that's kind of where we are. I'm trying to think if there's anything else George Campbell scored yesterday. George Campbell scored for West Brom. We've reached out to West Brom to see if we can catch up with George and find out about what life is like for George over there at West Brom in the championship. They had a 2-1 win over QPR yesterday. And also, it was announced that Rocco Rios Novo is going back to Miami. That happened. So that was announced yesterday as well. And it appears that the numbers are from Herman Garcia Grova. It was Inter Miami permanently signing Rocco getting 70% of his rights. And so you have all of this discussion now involving Rocco Rios Novo, and you have you've got Dane St. Clair, Rocco Rios Novo, Oscar Ustari. Those are the three right now in camp for Messi and friends. So Lanús and Inter Miami reached an agreement for the transfer. Club sells 70% of the players' pass, 3-year deal, once minor differences are ironed out, and that's according to Herman Garcia Grova. So that happened yesterday after we got off the air. So now you wonder what the future is for Oscar Ustari. When we all wondered what the future was going to be when they brought in Dane St. Clair, it is now Dane St. Clair, Rocco Rios Novo, Oscar Ustari. That is your new 1, 2, 3. When we were thinking yesterday before we got off the air, it was going to be Oscar Ustari and Dane St. Clair. Now, Rocco Rios Novo is back in the mix. What does that mean for Oscar Ustari? Does that mean Ustari gets loaned back out and goes back home to Argentina? We'll keep an eye on that. So that was the other element of movement that we saw yesterday as well. Wow, we're almost like 20 minutes over. Well, this is what happens when you have a lot of stuff happening. So let me say hi to everybody, and we'll rock and roll. Bart is saying the only solution is to go round robin, 3-way dance. Crystal Palace, Leon Botafogo in a friendly series. Winner gets to keep Thiago Almada. How about just pay Atlanta United what you own? I'm thinking. And David, like I said, I'm glad we could take you through replacing a dryer heating element. You're a better man than I. And Derek, to your point, Derek says the texter should be banned from ownership. Yeah, I mean, you don't play nice and you try to hide behind courts and things like that. He ain't making a whole lot of friends, but the friends he does have a lot of money. Morning 4-card, morning Bart, morning Thomas, let's see, morning Ricky. The Deadpool jersey, by the way, it's $90. Ollie Watkins' birthday, yeah, and plus 615. Yes, absolutely. Plus 615 for Villa. That to me is insane. That is ridiculous. Number dropped to plus 606. Arsenal's a minus 227 before we get out of here. So it looks like people saw it plus 615 and everybody was like, yo. David thinking that Russell Martin, the Dodgers catcher, might be a better manager than Russell Martin from Rangers. Let's see. So David on Gigi. Seems like he's always had drama surrounding his transfers. Is Gigi the issue or his agent? I don't know. I mean, Gigi is the on-the-field issue, and I think that he's got to be motivated under whatever auspice or idea that means. I think that Gigi has to be motivated. And I think that playing at PAOK gets him back to being closer to home, and the idea of being on loan to Greece from Mexico and then being sold. I mean, if I'm Gigi and if I scored 5 and 13 for PAOK, I would try to figure out, I want to stay at home. But how difficult is he making that, though? And so, Cruz Azul is like, yo, Brazil. Gigi's like, nah. So I would anticipate that, I don't know if it is Gigi, the agent, or both, or some combination. But, you loan Gigi home, scores 5 and 13, and then you're like, hey, what about Brazil? Nah. So I don't know where his wanderlust currently is, considering that he's 30. You want to stay close to home with a wife and a young family? That might be where he's leaning. But but now I think it's in PAOK's. I think it's probably in PAOK's court to figure out once the loan is up what they want to do, and whether or not Cruz Azul would get anything close to the money that they invested when they got him in the first place. Because if they were looking at 6.5 from Atletico Mineiro, what does it look like later? So that's the bigger question. Morning, Abby. Okay, so Abby said they don't have South Carolina fireworks places anymore. So fireworks are all over Atlanta. Okay, so get them local. That's kind of the thing. And all of her Hanukkahs have been put away and de-waxed. 3 days to do all 20. Wow. Electric menorah taken down as soon as Hanukkah ended. So, yes, and Ricky and Alex observing all 12 crazy nights, getting everything up and running through the 6th or the 7th. So, everything's up 6th or the 7th. I think it's going to be that way for us because then after the 6th and the 7th, we head down to the Gulf for a week. And that's when I'm doing shows from the Gulf. So we got that week coming up in a couple of weeks, and right at the beginning of training camp too for Atlanta United and everybody in Major League Soccer. I think that's it for today. Let me check one more time, and we can see if there's any other movement on anything. FC Dallas has signed Herman Johansson from Mjölby, and so he joins after their Swedish title run that we've been following. Contract through 28-29, option for 29-30, occupying an international slot. And a quote from Johansson, joined Mjölby in 2020, made his debut in 21, 7 goals in 25 with 8 assists. 28-year-old helped them capture the Allsvenskan with 75 points, 136 appearances, 17 plus 15 in all comps. Andre Zanota with a quote, 2020 season with Sandvikens in Etanora, the third tier of Swedish soccer. Club debut in 2020, began his career promotion to the senior club in 2015, and made his international debut back in November against Slovenia in World Cup qualifiers. So 29 players currently under contract. Herman Johansson, okay, that's new. Herman Johansson is a 28-year-old defender midfielder, 6'3", and via transfer from Mjölby through 28-29 with an option for 29 and 30. So that is that move. Kazuyoshi Miura is 58. He's going to continue his career in 2026. That news coming from the 4-letter. He's going to extend his career another year, signing for 3rd Division J-League side Fukushima United. So going strong at the age of 58, turning 59 in February. And King Kazu is going to continue at Fukushima United, embarking on a new challenge. 89 times for Japan, last cap coming in 2000, 6 times for his country's futsal team alongside his club career. So 58 going on 59. Good on you. We all should be able to be so good. All right, so that's another go round. Tomorrow, Dylan Butler is going to join us, and we'll discuss MLS going on with him. Anything else going on? We'll probably talk some AFCON and all the other things that are going on when it comes to getting you ready for New Year's. And morning 110. Bring back. And so 110. I will disagree with you on bringing back individuals. And Bogish is doing the same thing Gigi did at Cruz Azul. Bogish would be an interesting pickup for me, but we'll see about that. But 110. Thanks for dropping by late in the morning. I didn't realize I was going to be going on for an extra half hour, but that's what news dictates sometimes. So. That's a rundown on Texter and on Atlanta United and their new signing, Tomas Jakob, and everything else going on, AFCON, Kaylor, Hodges, and Kacey White, all the things. So I'm on with Glenn Davis tonight, taping this afternoon. So you listen to Glenn Davis at ESPN 97.5 in Houston because soccer matters. And we'll be back at it again tomorrow, breaking everything down here in the midweek on a New Year's Eve day. Remember, no show Thursday. We'll be back on Friday with the Power Hour, Nino and Nico at 10 and 10:30, and we'll break it all down there. So since it is the end of the show, that means I get to do this back at it in 21 and a half hours or so if I went for another 2 minutes. Thanks to all you guys for hanging out with us as long as we went. Stay warm, keep an eye on your pets and on your plants, and make sure your car can start. So since it is the end of the show, that means I get to do this. See you again, 9:05 tomorrow morning.